Action. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City of Hayden City Council meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. Calling this meeting to order. Could I please have a roll call of council members, Abby?
Councilmember DePriest?
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
And Council President Roeder is absent. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. I'd like to ask Congress member, council member, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
He's senator by next year.
Yeah.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thank you, Senator DePriest. First item on our agenda tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a proclamation for the 2023 Arbor Day. The Arbor Day proclamation for the city of Hayden. Whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, I, Scott Fursell, of the City of Hayden and Hayden City Council do hereby proclaim May 18th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the City of Hayden. We urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Dated this 22nd day of March, 2023. Folks that have been here, you guys have heard this many times before, but I also see several new faces in the audience. Our next item on the calendar tonight is the consent calendar. Our city government operates 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. Many of the things they do are routine and it's taken care of inside of the city. However, some of the things that our city government do require city council's approval or consent. And that is what our item number 2 here is all about tonight. For the consent calendar, item 2A, approval of the August 31st, 2022 special city council meeting minutes. 2B, approval of the November 29th, 2022 city council meeting minutes. 2C, approval of the February 28th, 2023 special city council meeting minutes. 2D, approval of the February 28th, 2023 city council meeting minutes. 2E, the approval of the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades payment request. 2F, the approval of the 2023 Sing, Play, and Move program contractual services agreement with Marilyn Griffiths. 2G, the approval of the 2023 contractual services agreement with Tom Darzis for pickleball lessons. 2H, the approval of the family worship at the park event permit and the loudspeaker use request. 2I, the approval of the 2023 KEP concert summer concert series agreement. 2J, the approval of the 2023 Hayden Days entertainment agreement with Ruby Frog for DJ services. 2K, the approval of the 2023 Hayden Days entertainment agreement with James Leon Rhythm Dogs. 2L, the approval of the PZE 23-0009 vacation of the Flame and Cork plat written decision. 2M, the approval of PZE-23-002 zone text amendment written decision. 2N, the approval of the change order number 2 for the City Hall remodel to amend the contract start date and contract days. 2O, the ratification of the February 2023 payroll. And 2P, the ratification of bills paid on February 24th, March 6th, March 13th, March 14th, and March 16th of 2023. Does council have any discussion or questions on these items? Councilmember White.
I just have a few little things to clarify. On the contractual services agreement, for pickleball. I was just wondering, where do we do pickleball?
Out on the courts out here. We use the basketball courts. We just paint pickleball courts on them and use them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Also, the agreement has two different names on it. It has JT Strong and it has
It
Tom
should be
Darcis.
Tom Darcis.
Tom Darcis, okay. All right, and then I was gonna also ask about the concerts. Have we looked into sponsorships for the concerts?
That is Michael Kep, who is the producer. He gets the sponsorships to pay for
He
them.
does. Okay. So is the amount we're approving in here
That was already
negotiable?
budgeted. You
Pardon?
approved that. You approved that in the budget for 2023. So that's what the city pays, and then he gets sponsorships to pay for the rest.
Okay, thank you. I know I cut you off guard, but you
That's
did a
all
great
right.
job. Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion from council on the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Second?
We have a move to approve and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes?
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. Before we move on to item 3, I have a statement that I would like to make. Ladies and gentlemen, as a council, we welcome and we expect respectful disagreement. When a citizen becomes involved in our local government, he or she does so because they feel passionate about various issues. Passionate ideas are welcome. Threats, however, are not. As a city, we will deal with threats quickly and decisively. We will treat those who threaten anonymously with the contempt they deserve. To the coward who threatened our city council member and their home and family, you are not as anonymous as you might like to think you are. We will work with our law enforcement officials to identify you, and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Our city has less than zero tolerance towards anyone who would threaten a council member, or any member of our city staff for that matter. Such threats endanger not only our city council, but the very principles of democracy that we all hold dear. Ladies and gentlemen here tonight and those watching on the internet, your voice is welcome in our city government. However, we will not tolerate those whose idea of effecting change is to threaten or intimidate city officials. Moving on to our visitor public comment. Do we have any, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, except for items that will be discussed later, we would welcome any public comment that anyone may have.
No.
I don't see anybody jumping for the back to fill out a form, so we will move past the public comment period. Moving on to item number 4, public hearing. This is for PZE 23-0037, the reconsideration of PZE 22-128 Kerr Zone Map Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, when we reconsider this, we open essentially from start a new public hearing. However, we still retain the information that was brought forward at the first hearing. Here is how a public hearing works. First of all, our staff will introduce the subject case. Then the applicant will present their case. The staff will present a summary of the staff report for the proposed use. Then we will have public comment. For public comment, ladies and gentlemen, commenters must complete a green form at the back of the room. If you would like to speak on this particular item, please fill out that form. Commenters will be called upon in order of those in support, neutral, and those opposed. Commenters will address the council, not the audience. Commenters must state their name and whether or not they are citizens of Hayden, Idaho. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes, and I will notify commenters when they have 1 minute remaining by waving some sort of a piece of paper at 1 minute to let you know you've got 1 minute remaining. At that point, the applicant will be given opportunity for a rebuttal. The applicant will only address specific items brought up by previous commenters. I will then close the public hearing and we will have council deliberations. At that point, we will have a council decision. It is 5:39 and I am opening the hearing. Donna, can you please give us an introduction to the subject case? And realizing that we have all heard this before, I appreciate your shortening it. I know you're going to do that. Go ahead.
So as part of any hearing process for a zone map amendment, it has a public hearing with planning and zoning. Planning and zoning provides a written recommendation to city council. The public hearing is heard with city council and city council makes a decision. Should an applicant or an affected party be unhappy with that decision, they can't just appeal it. It has to be chosen. They have to pick one of 6 reasons in our city code that they could request a reconsideration. And the applicant did that. They provided a request for reconsideration that the city council heard on February 28th, and the city council believed that they may have some validity to that, and so they agreed to have a second public hearing before city council to reconsider the matters at hand. And at that time, the city council made the decision that it would be an open hearing, similar to what you said. So basically, it's a redo of the public hearing that came before council on the 10th of January. So with that in mind, the project location is on the northeast corner of Dakota Avenue and Ramsey Road. The development team is Eric Olson of Olson Engineering, and Jeremy Tuzuli is here from Olson Engineering to present on behalf of the owners, Justin and Laurel Kerr, who the owners are also here tonight. Just to give the lay of the land, the existing zone on the property is residential suburban, shown by these funny hatched lines over the top of the aerial. And the future land use map shows the property to become mixed residential, which is shown in blue. Okay, so with that, it's important to note that at the time of planning and zoning, the zone map amendment and the proposed subdivision for this site were heard at the same time. Although they were separate written decisions, the public hearing was concurrent. At the time of the city council meeting, the zone map amendment was heard first, but references were made to the subdivision. The request for reconsideration is specific to the zone map amendment. So tonight, we're talking about zone map amendment, not specifically to the subdivision, right? Correct? Wanda?
Yes, correct.
Right. Is this what you would like me to leave up, or would you like to leave the standards of approval up?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I turn it over to Jeremy.
Mr. Terzulia,
Good evening,
I'll
Council.
give you a signal when you've got 3 minutes left.
I'm sorry?
I will give you a signal when you've got 3 minutes left.
How much do I start with?
15.
All right. Mr. Mayor, Council, Jeremy Terzulli, Olson Engineering, located 55 Cedar in Post Falls, Idaho. Appreciate the opportunity and the agreeing to reconsider. I'm going to let a lot of the public record stand, as several of the criteria for approval were deemed to have been met. So I think I'm going to auger down on things that seem to be in dispute and there seemed to be some disagreement over, which seemed to narrow down to a few goals and policies in the comprehensive plan, specifically around safety concerns, traffic, and open space. So I'm going to try to summarize those. So the proposal is supported by many of the goals and policies in the comp plan, and the ones that were used to deny it, I feel that given a different perspective could actually lend support to the project, and so I'm going to try to do that. Those goals, specifically goal 3, policy 4, 13, and 15. So starting with traffic concerns, we did provide an analysis of the master transportation plan at our previous hearing. That was done by a licensed engineer, Eric Olson, the owner of Olson Engineering. It didn't seem to have much impact with the council, so I had the other licensed engineer in our office, Steve Soltis,
independent of Eric, run his own analysis using the master transportation plan, which is your adopted guiding document for transportation. And he came to, in essence, the same conclusion. And in his summary in the memo he sent to me, he states that given the fact that the proposed density and more is being built into the traffic model for both the near term and long term, any concerns about traffic issues for the site have already been addressed in the Hayden Transportation Master Plan. So basically, those two engineers came to the same conclusion, which is that growth in this area we're proposing growth in this area that's less than what's being modeled by that transportation plan. And if the city uses their improvement funds collected through impact fees in the general fund judiciously and does improvements to the street networking, that it will be able to handle greater growth than what we're actually proposing here. So with that, I attempted to take it one step further. I did reach out to Idaho, which is the consultant that the city used to draft that plan, asked them to put together a memo with this site in mind and this proposal in mind, specific to just this. We asked them to analyze the corridor at Ramsey, the corridor at Dakota, that intersection, the intersection of Hayden and Ramsey, and any other intersections they felt prudent to analyze. My contact at Idaho did reach back out to me and in an email stated, and I quote, "I reached out to the city of Hayden for their thoughts and they were opposed to Idaho preparing the memo you are requesting. The reason is that Idaho is an extension of city staff and they don't want it to look like city was part of the development team. I understand their reasoning." So, in summary, with regard to traffic, the pre-development meeting and the subsequent notes indicated that there were no need for additional traffic studies per the proposal because it did not rise to the threshold necessary for a full-blown traffic impact analysis, which is 75 peak hour trips per day. The transportation master plan was analyzed by both engineers in our office. They came to the same conclusion, that the model assumes more density than we're proposing. Idaris, unable to help us with a memo in their analysis of this site. So I wanted to convey that every effort is being made to try to alleviate concerns of this council, and we're kind of stuck. We're sort of stuck with what would be an acceptable method, because in the written decision, it stated that if we could address traffic concerns, that would move us one step closer to being granted approval. And two licensed engineers have now analyzed it. We can't get the city's analysts to take a look at it because of a potential conflict of interest. We need direction from the council on how to alleviate those concerns regarding traffic. Additionally, the client is willing, if you can help us with the criteria you want in that impact analysis, the client is willing to discuss a pro rata share of impact on the intersection of Hayden and Ramsey through that analysis. We're willing to have that discussion. We're willing to have the discussion of widening of Dakota Avenue, as it looks like there is plenty of right of way there to make improvements to that section of Dakota. But again, we need direction from this council as to what is acceptable to alleviate those concerns. Additionally, with regard to traffic congestion is going to continue community-wide, and the city of Hayden is going to experience additional traffic through circumstances outside of their control. Neighboring, the core tear approval that looked like it went through yesterday, that's a mile outside of city limits. That's going to generate traffic in your city, and to simply cut off one of the primary funding mechanisms, or at least minimize it, which is collection of your impact fees, you're not going to be able to control through traffic. You also can't necessarily control traffic of people that work in the city of Hayden but live elsewhere. Sometimes we like to get some internal capture, meaning people that work here actually live here as well and perhaps can walk or bicycle to work or take some back roads to get to work. All things that need to be considered by the council when discussing the traffic. And we're willing to have that conversation. We just need perhaps more of a dialogue on what would be acceptable to the council. With regard to open space, again, referencing your adopted plans. Your parks plan is about the best place to go when discussing open space. The parks plan, when adopted, did actually indicate a small surplus of parkland based on the recommendation of 5 acres per 1,000 residents. And of course, if the city continues to acquire parkland for open space commensurate with the growth, that surplus should remain and allow for open space and parkland for the residents of Hayden. Again, going back to the pre-development meeting, pre-development notes in the meeting indicated that no parkland dedication or open space would be required for the proposal, simply a collection of impact fees. Those impact fees can be used for land acquisition for open space, improvement to existing parks, and those sort of things. Per your newly adopted fee schedule, which I believe was adopted September of 2022, my calculations upon build out of our proposal would generate $59,000 worth of impact fees specific to parks. That's on top of transportation. That's in addition to building permits and all other pass-through fees. That's simply impact fees due to parks. And staff can correct me if I've got my calculations wrong, but it's in that ballpark. Again, the Parks Master Plan, right in the first several pages, does discuss what their primary funding mechanisms are for parkland acquisition and park improvements, and those two are the general fund and collection of impact fees. So development pays for development in this manner. You know, we hear that a lot, and that's how it plays out. If those impact fees have been calculated properly, they can be used to accomplish some of these goals and policies that are identified in the comprehensive plan. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out is that if council and the community looks at each one of these proposals as though it exists in a vacuum, it's kind of doing a disservice to the grand view of the city. I don't know if there's a way, without violating ex parte communication or the public hearing protocol, for city staff to perhaps identify potential projects in the pipeline that do have parkland dedication, and how the two projects can perhaps integrate impact fees from one, parkland dedication from another, making a nice cohesive product. I happen to know and have firsthand experience and have sat in on a pre-development meeting for a project that a large dedication of parkland is part of that proposal. It's in the design phase right now. We've had a couple of meetings about it. I won't say any more about it at this point, but if there's a way for council to be made aware of projects that are being proposed, maybe that open space discussion can be a little bit more fruitful, is all I'm trying to say there. Additionally, I understand that open space doesn't just mean parkland. There's things like green belts and open space, adjacent communities, places like Tubbs Hill, like Canfield Mountain, all those things work into a community. But to assume that if this request is denied, that this property remains undeveloped and open space, is probably also a little bit short-sighted and not looking at the big picture. There's a couple of options that we would have if denied. We could wait it out for a few years and sort of see if the flavor of the community and the council changes. There's a decent chance we would sit down with the owners and discuss a subdivision that would be allowed right now by right, which would be in the residential suburban. That would likely be 12 homes on half-acre lots with shops, a single road going through there, all fenced yard, which doesn't really equate to open space. The property owner does have the right to pursue a 12-lot subdivision on this property, and it's probably on the table if denied. So, to assume that this will remain undeveloped and open space, I think, is probably inaccurate, and I just wanted to point that out. Then specifically, how am I doing, Mr. Mayor?
You've got 4 more minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I can do it. Regarding the health, safety, and welfare, which gets brought up a lot, some residents think that one additional car on the road is too many, and that creates a health and safety risk. And by simply looking at statistics, yes, one additional car does incrementally raise the risk of a potential accident. But to look at the other side of that argument, to eliminate funding potential through impact fees to make improvements to failing intersections and failing road sections is also a potential risk to the public. And that's something that this council needs to weigh out. I understand that. I mean, Councilman Roeder in the previous hearing is quoted as saying that the city doesn't have the money to pay for all the improvements that are needed at this time. And again, to cut off or shrink that funding mechanism, it's a balancing act, and I don't envy the position. I truly don't. I know it's difficult. I did also point out in the last public hearing, and it didn't carry much weight, that a safety risk currently exists at the Moonridge subdivision. That's 3. At the Moonridge subdivision. And that is in violation of International Fire Code, stating that any subdivision with 30 lots or more needs to have a second point of approvable access for fire apparatus. I called Tyler Drexel with Northern Lakes Fire and had a long discussion about this with him. And he said, yeah, that was approved by my predecessor, not, throwing mud on anybody. He said, because even during my time, I was a little loosey-goosey with that rule, like 31, 32, we can, and he said, and I had my epiphany the day that house blew up in Rathdrum. And he said, I was on duty that day. I went up there and I looked around and said, if this didn't have multiple points of access, these people would be sheltering in place right now. And we've got a ground that is saturated to 90% with natural gas. And he thought of projects like this that had gotten approval, and he said no more. They had a meeting, he and his boss, the next day. They said, we will be enforcing this to the letter of the law, and I support and advocate for any project that will bring something like this into compliance. That was my conversation with Tyler. So in conclusion, we believe the proposal is supported by many of the goals and policies in the comp plan, and that the goals and policies cited to deny the project could be viewed a different way. If preservation of that residential suburban zoning is the desire of the council, then I believe it's incumbent upon this council to amend the future land use map to reflect that or memorialize it in zoning in some way. And again, if additional studies are to be required for every subdivision, perhaps we can amend the code so that earlier in the process, an applicant can know what is going to be required, and we don't get to this point and get kicked back down basically by saying we have some concerns. I'm very familiar with all of your adopted plans, your guiding documents. I'm incredibly familiar with your code, and that is what I use when bringing forth these proposals. That's what I use when advising clients, and some of the decisions being made with regard to land use actions seem to be inconsistent with some of those guiding documents. And I'm hoping some transparency and that this could possibly spark some further discussion about how we can be familiar with what's going to be required earlier in the process. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Question. Thank you. Jeremy, you quoted a park impact fee amount of $59,000. Did you calculate the circulation impact fee?
Transportation.
Transportation.
It's broken out into 3 different sections, and yes, I did. It was 64, I think, and that's assuming.
Circulation, that's traffic, transportation?
Yeah, your impact fee schedule has it broken out for EMS and fire, transportation, parks. Is there another one, Donna?
So you're saying 59K for parks and 64 for?
Yeah, hang on, I have it written down. 63 for
Right.
transportation.
Minus based on square footage of houses.
Right, so there was an assumption made that the twin homes would be in that 1,000 to 2,400 square foot range, and the single family would exceed the 2,400.
Right.
Okay, and
You were looking for approximate figures anyway, weren't you?
right, yeah. Go ahead, just.
Any other member of Councilmember White?
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Terzulli. Yeah, I was just wondering, were you thinking about making any changes to the plan for development? Or I know that it's just the zone map amendment on the table today, but
We've discussed it, and part of the reason for the mixed residential was the housing type. Our density actually is in line with R1. We feel we can get a product to market cheaper if we have that party wall, right? It's half, you don't have to side that wall on two sides. You get to make the lots a little bit smaller for that product, leave the lots a little bigger for the R1. The idea was truly to bring two distinct housing types to the market in two distinct price ranges. We have talked about the idea if, again, another denial, do we revisit and ask for R1 and put a more traditional 8250 lot size, single-family development in here? We've talked about the idea of leaving it as is. So that's a very long-winded way of saying it's been discussed, but we felt we'd let this process play out and then sort of see where we go from here.
okay. So the twin homes are still on the table?
They are.
Okay. And again, just refresh my mind, this property was purchased about a year
A
ago,
little over a year.
and it was in suburban at the time of
It was.
purchase. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Satterfield, any question? I have one quick question. I could not grab a pen quick enough. Could you please, again, at the start of your narrative, you gave us the comprehensive plan goals
Yes,
and
the-
policies
the
that support.
Policies and goal.
If you would, yeah, if you could once again tell me what supports it.
The ones that were brought up by council most frequently was goal number 3,
That's, I didn't support.
policy 4, 13, and 15.
Did you want ones they were? Ours?
And those are the ones that you believe support your position? Or
Those were the ones I believe were used to offer the denial. My attempt through my presentation tonight was to offer a counter perspective so that when looked at perhaps from a different perspective, that those same goals and policies could be used in support.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember DePriest.
I agree with you, Mr. Trezulli. Jeremy.
You can call me Jeremy.
Yeah, it is a very difficult situation because there are, you said some things that I think need discussion or, and I don't know if I can ask you to elaborate more on the comments. So I'm going to throw some out there and we can be told, no, you can't go there or whatever. You brought up possibly widening Dakota. I don't know how far down.
Yeah, so if you look, and if we're still in okay territory, I'll just go.
Well, that's leaning towards the subdivision application that was previously before planning and zoning that is not before council. So this is, you are free to answer the question if you wish. I just would caution council that we are in an amendment to the zone exclusively without a joint
So I'm
application.
discussing off-site improvements. Do you still think we're in that gray
You
area?
can answer the question.
Okay, so if you look at Dakota from Ramsey to Reed,
Okay.
okay, it's this property, Mr. Fitzgerald's property, subdivision to the south, which is already dedicated right-of-way. We have 50 feet from property line to property line. Do you want me to?
Well, I'm trying to read, is that what the butt ends in it or is
It's
that
off
read
of
there?
this. Yeah, it's off of this screen. It goes
Yeah,
a
so
little
it's
further.
farther over, okay.
So this subdivision dedicated right-of-way during the replat of that. If you take a measurement and you were to give the dedicated right-of-way that would be given through plat approval of, we call it Trail Creek, you take Mr. Fitzgerald's property, you have, the narrowest spot would be 50 feet of right-of-way. That's property line to property line. And so if you take a 24-foot paved section, and you want to do some temporary, you could do a full-blown curb sidewalk swale on the south side and then kind of sheet drain it on the north. We could make improvements to Dakota, including striping, including curb gutter sidewalk. Of course,
Down to Reed or just?
to Reed makes sense, because like I said, the right-of-way dedicated through the replat of those subdivisions, it lines up pretty nicely to make improvements all the way to Reed. And again, the city can save a bunch of money if, while these guys are mobilized out there, we come up with a who pays for what, and let's just do it. Let's just get it done. Same thing with the offsites down at Hayden and Ramsey. We want to talk about a couple of right-hand turn bays to get us through while the city navigates their right-of-way acquisition of the Hyco, because I know that's probably your logjam down there, is that's going to be a spendy right-of-way acquisition. We can have that discussion. The unfortunate part, and what I tried to point out, is this forum, what we have right now, it puts us in an adversarial position, kind of de facto. It's sort of counterproductive. If we're all trying to be, I know the developers we work, and I'm straying now, I get long-winded, I apologize. I think we can work together to come up with a solution. If that intersection is, I know Councilman Roeder was just like, that thing's a nightmare and we need to get it fixed and we don't know how. I get to come up here in 15-minute snippets and have this discussion with you, and it's like, we don't get anywhere.
Thank you, yeah.
Other questions of Jeremy?
Okay,
Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
rebuttal. Thank you.
We'll now ask staff to present a summary of the staff report.
Three, four. I think there's actually 4 seats up here. Or not, you choose. So the request is a zone map amendment request from residential suburban to mixed residential. And again, should the zone map amendment request to mixed residential zone designation be approved, then the subdivision request that was heard previous or by planning and zoning and was in part of the discussion here would be a preliminary plat drafted for a total of 25 single-family dwelling units on 25 lots. So the standards of approval for zone map amendment, there are 4 standards of approval, and based on the applicant's proposal, staff does not believe additional studies or plans are necessary, and neither did the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. Based on the applicant's request, staff does not believe that a zoning development agreement is necessary. In other words, no conditions were assigned or requested or presented, recommended by Planning and Zoning. So therefore, no zoning development agreement was proposed. The future land use map and goals and policies of the comprehensive plan should be reviewed. And in the staff review, it talks about the fact that mixed residential in the definitions of the comprehensive plan is a land use category that can accommodate a range of residential structures, including single family, detached, 2-family, and 3-family units, all single family, except for that duplex, as well as accessory structures. The goals, just so, I mean, we've heard about goal numbers, but the goals that are identified in the staff review, and just so that everybody here understands goal number 3 that was identified previously, that's to maintain an attractive and balanced mix of land uses, densities, and housing types, ensuring the future character of the community and promoting greater choices and opportunities. And then the other 7 or 8 goals that were identified in the staff review have to talk about development of land within the corporate limits prior to annexation of adjacent areas, preserving and protecting and strengthening the vitality and stability of existing neighborhoods, ensuring all development can be serviced by existing public facilities or extended to adequately serve the development, establishing a balance between jobs and housing to attract new employment and living opportunities, coordinate the timely development of efficient, effective, and environmental sound sewer, water, and other utility infrastructure, ensuring that costs of the development are shared equitably and accommodate for ongoing growth of Hayden. Goal number 16 talks about ensuring that ordinance and policies do not violate private property rights. And 17 talks about promoting and encouraging the development and rehabilitation of quality housing through a variety of housing options and densities. And then the policies that were identified in the city staff review, they include two of these, not policy number 13. I don't have that in front of me. Policy 4 that was identified by Mr. Tuzuli says the city should evaluate community-wide impacts from development, identifying their needs for public facilities, utilities, services, circulation, and housing, and the effects on city resources. He identified policy 11, which says promote nodes of development. Boy, that's a typo. And density in the downtown and strategically along transportation corridors. Other policies that were identified in the staff review include development should be compatible with a comprehensive plan and fiscally responsible in supplying adequate transportation, utilities, and parks to newly developed areas. Policy 12 says encourage rezoning and zoning text amendments to support the creation of strategic nodes, higher density development, transition zones between residential and industrial uses. Directly across the street from this property is light industrial, so that is a point. That's why that policy is listed there. 16 says ensure levels of public services, facilities, and utilities are adequate to satisfy the community's needs now and as new development occurs. And policy 23 says to ensure land use and zoning compatibility related to development, density, and height occurring in close proximity to the Coeur d'Alene Airport. So I just wanted to point out again that this project site is located here. Just because those are not common, we don't usually pull those up with a residential zone. You're usually in a residential area. Across the street is light industrial, and immediately to the northwest, outside of the city limits, is Coeur d'Alene Airport property. So just as a matter of interest, per location. In the staff review, it recognizes these two kind of quirky parts about this property. And it guides you to Chapter 4 of the comprehensive plan, which discusses land use considerations in the table 4.2, that was talking about the Coeur d'Alene Airport, northwest of this property, transportation with the North Ramsey Road corridor, as well as items related to affordable housing. Just for reference, and not because I'm going to go through that, table 4.2 talks about concerns when looking at land use decisions related to the airport, gross impact on transportation, again, the Ramsey Road corridor and the 2040 transportation plan, the affordable fair housing section, as well as preservation of open, and the parks master plan. So then the fourth standard of approval for a zone map amendment notes that it shall align with the zone district's purpose and intent. So a residential suburban, which is what it's zoned today, provides for single-family residential on larger lots and minimal agricultural uses. Mixed residential zone provides for a range of residential structures, including single-family, two-family, and three-family dwelling units, as well as accessory dwelling units on individual lots. The setbacks and lot coverage table comparison is shown on page 4 of the staff review, but on page 90 of your memo that was sent to the council as part of board book. And then general infrastructure requirements would be addressed at the time of development of the project with the subdivision in accordance with all of our current Hayden City code and standards and policies. So because this is a do-over, we notice all of the same agencies and all of the same noticing process that occurred previously for the previous public hearings. And of the 28 or 20, whatever, public agencies that were noticed, The Coeur d'Alene Airport responded with no comment, requested an abrogation easement. Hayden Lake Irrigation District provided comments in the packet that gave their full support. They talked about the water improvements that would be provided by the developer as part of this project, should it be approved. Kootenai County Sheriff's Office provided comments and noted that in their first portion of their paragraph that they didn't see any immediate impact that would prevent it from being approved. However, they would like to make the council aware of impact this would have on public safety for the city of Hayden. And then they go down to give some general statistics about dwelling units and growth throughout the city. The Northern Lakes Fire Protection District provided comments related to the project's future development. I have an asterisk next to the last one. Whenever we send out notices, we have a date that we'd like folks to have stuff turned back in. We had Idaho Department of Environmental Quality provided comments late last week. And we had 3 other responses that were received all the way up until early this morning. It's hard to get the comments to the applicant so that they're able to respond to the comments, and it's hard to get them out to council past the Wednesday of noon of Wednesday of last week to get them in the council packet, so you have opportunity to review them as well when we get them later than the cutoff date. So just as a matter of interest, that notices do say that if they come in past the date, that the mayor has the opportunity to either allow them to be submitted or to not. So I'll leave that up to the mayor. The Idaho Department of Environmental Quality is a 5-page letter that really covers everything from soup to nuts and doesn't have anything specifically identified for this specific site. So public comments that are in the record that are part of the memo that you've got in your hand. From Planning and Zoning Commission, there were 9 that were received prior to the public hearing, 2 in support, 1 that was neutral, and 6 that were opposed. Planning and Zoning Commission at the meeting, 1 was neutral and 5 were opposed. City Council prior to the hearing, 4 were opposed. City Council at the meeting, 5 were opposed. As part of the reconsideration request for City Council prior to this meeting, we received 1 in favor and 2 that were opposed. The 1 was put in here prior to the one that came in this morning. So there were 2 that were opposed that are in your packet. So the 4 standards of approval that this project falls under. And so upon the time that the City Council makes a decision, the City Council shall act upon the request and make a decision. And upon granting or denying the request for reconsideration of the zone map amendment, the City Council shall specify the ordinance and standards, which would be these guys, used in evaluating the application, the reasons for the approval or the denial, and the actions, if any, that the applicant could take to obtain the permit. In the event that the City Council shall approve an amendment, such amendment shall be made a part of this title with the passage of an ordinance. Conclusion. The one you'd like me to leave up for the public hearing, or would you like them out?
How about the map? Council members, or would you prefer the map to this one?
Can we ask questions now, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can you go back to the standards of approval there?
This is the standards of approval.
Well, the last one you had on with right there. And I noticed something I'm trying to grasp and understand, grasp it. 1117E5B3, the actions, if any, that the applicant could take to obtain a permit. If any is where I'm trying to grasp.
Direct you to Fonda.
Well, I mean, again, I'm trying to understand, what if there are not any that are found to be acceptable to all parties and that type of thing? If any, kind of basically, a lot of what I've been told in the past, felt that had been described in the past, is that you have to give these people a way to do it. And what if there is no way to do it? If any, kind of says there might be situations where there are not any. So how do we address that?
So first of all, this language is duplicated out of Idaho code, so it's been duplicated into your city code. So let's be clear on where it originates. Second to that, if there are no actions that you believe could be taken to gain approval, then you make that a finding.
Simple
Your
as that.
decision.
Okay, so it's not a statutory requirement. You have to find a way.
It's inferred that if there is a way to yes, that you will help them find a way. But if you can make a finding that there absolutely is no path forward to approval, then you make that as a finding in your decision.
Okay. And do you have the sheriff's letter on, is it as part of the PowerPoint?
It's not. It's
Okay.
it's in your packet.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I guess I'll save that for later.
Deliberations.
Deliberation, sure. Done, thank you.
Do you have, anyone else have any questions for Donna? Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it.
So what did we decide?
Oh, yeah, did we decide, council, would you prefer the map or the standards of approval? Let's put the map up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're now, I move to our next stage of the public hearing, which is for public comment. Once again, please, commenters have completed forms in the back of the room. If you would like to speak and you've not completed a form, would you please go to the back of the room and fill out a green form? I would appreciate it. Second, we'll call upon commenters in the order of those in support, neutral, and those opposed. Commenters, please address the council and not the audience. Please state your name and whether or not you're citizens of Hayden. And your comments are limited to 5 minutes, and I will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining by waving something like this at you. There are no commenters that are here to testify for or neutral. The commenters that we have are for against. I would first like to call on Ms. Teresa Roth. Ms. Roth?
I have drawn up a picture of an alternate plan that
We have them.
is part of my testimony.
We
They
have
have
them.
them.
Do you have
We received it.
Okay, does anybody else, anyone?
No,
Okay, as
Ms.
long
Roth,
as you guys
Ms. Roth,
actually have-
you need to address the
He just
council
gave
and
it to
not the
us.
audience.
And then it's the main thing I want to discuss. My position.
Ms. Roth, could
Yeah.
you,
Oh, excuse me.
could you please,
I'm Teresa
I
Roth.
realize this is-
I am a
Thank you.
Hayden property owner, and my property actually is an area that was formerly residential suburban and has been rezoned single family. So what I want to talk mainly about is that I believe that the real underlying problem here is that this future land use map is problematic. I believe that the correct way that really would have been much more rational and would have made it solve this problem is this whole area really should have been single family. And
Ms.
this-
Roth,
Yes.
could you please go to the speaker so that folks on the internet can hear you too, and we can record those comments? Thank you.
And the mixed use at that other corner across, it kind of makes sense. It's sticking out like a sore thumb. The other mixed use is all the way along Hayden. So I believe this was just a very aggressive future land use map, which instead of looking at the neighborhoods and saying, but what makes sense for this neighborhood? In my neighborhood, it actually makes sense to go single family, and I'm not freaked out about it. I don't like the way it was done. But if this had been done single family, then I think that the Kerr plan could have been done in such a way that wouldn't have stirred up these people. There's problems with the way it was done, especially in the corner there, where there's 4 houses in a row with 20-foot frontage. So I am complaining not only about the zoning issues, but also the subdivision itself, which is part of the problem when you are trying to make really small lots. You just don't have enough road frontage. So I'm just going to read this. My primary testimony is to present a visual image of an alternative map for the Cortair property where it was developed for R1 single family rather than R mixed residential. And I've shown that it is possible to plat up to 21, maybe only 20, but I think 21 lots in the same area that all have over 8,000 square feet or 8,200 square feet and have ample road frontage. So the first problem is that the Kerr property really should have been zoned single family in the first place, because that's an appropriate density for the neighborhood. And the second problem have to do with the very short road frontages and the twin homes as well. But anyway, I believe the best possible solution for everybody would be to allow an R1 upgrade, but not an MR upgrade. And also, as the presenter said, to fix the future land use map, so it no longer encourages a degree of density that is completely inappropriate for the neighborhood. I'm pointing out the problems with the plum because I'm concerned that if you do approve this mixed residential, then it will make it very difficult to do what you really should do, which is correct the future land use map and make it a somewhat less dense, but one that's open to growth but is less dense. I believe there's a great deal of value, both aesthetically and practically, in regular sized lots on regular interconnected streets with adequate road frontage. And I believe that should be the goal of the subdivisions that we permit in the future. Rezoning Kerr for R1 and encouraging adequate road frontage would be a good solution for everybody. I'd also like to point out that many people who prefer dense housing, including builders and landowners, like to talk about affordable housing, but it is not your job as city council people to solve affordable housing. It is your job to represent the citizens of Hayden who elected you. And we prefer housing densities that preserve the character. Furthermore, developers and landowners have access to lawyers. And having worked with some of the Cortair people, just to emphasize your responsibilities, they cannot find a single land use lawyer anywhere in Kootenai County who's willing to go up against Cortair because they all work for developers or the city. So I'm emphasizing you city council people are the only source we have as citizens to protect our rights. We do not have access to lawyers. It's you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roth. Our next commenter is Mr. Gary Carter. Hi, thank you very much.
I'm Gary Carter. I'm a member of the Moonridge Acres Homeowners Association, which is immediately north of the lot that it's talking about. All 33 members that are in there, and I'm speaking tonight for the Homeowners Association. I'm speaking for myself as a member, but there are 33 single-family homes that are in that lot. And I don't know all the other lots that are shown on this map, but I'm pretty sure, since I travel that area quite often, that they're all single families. I don't know of any multiple family. That's our biggest objection, is the multiple families. So we object, as we did in the first meeting in January, to the rezoning to allow the multifamily homes. And we object to the density, actually the density, the number of homes that potentially would go in there if it is rezoned. We object to using the Hubble Street as a conduit for reaching Ramsey Road. I talked before about how much trouble it is at certain times of the day to get on to Ramsey Road. We had some difficulty tonight just coming down to here. Listen to the engineer comment about, from their perspective, and these certified engineers that did the road studies on it, about safety issues and protection from Sheriff's Department. I've lived in that neighborhood for 4 years now and never have seen a difficulty of a fire truck or ambulance. I speak from personal experience with that. Of being able to get into our homeowners association or our subdivision. And so I challenge him on that. He may be doing this from a study point of view, but I challenge him from living in that area and knowing what we have in and out of the neighborhood. From my perspective, and many of the members that I've talked with in the association, the only thing that we can see motivated for doing this, for the number of houses that they want for this size of a lot, is greed. That's what I think is the motivation here. The more houses they can put on there, the more the money that they get out of the development. I'm sure the people will disagree with me on that, but that's my opinion. And I have an article here that we cut out of the press where the mayor is quoted in saying Hayden is a city of single-family residential homes. I like it that way. It's a good thing. And I agree with him. You remember saying that?
I do.
Okay. Well, I hold you to your word. Because I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I know there are a number of people in here that feel the same way. That's all I have to say this particular time.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Our next commenter is Mr. John Wildhaber. And John, if I messed up your last name, I apologize. If you could straighten me out.
Okay, everybody calls all kind of stuff. I'm John Wildhaber. I live at 1492 West Memphis Avenue in Hayden. I've been a resident in Moon Ridge Estates for 11 years. And what he just said about the fire trucks and ambulance and everything getting to our neighborhood has never been a problem. The sheriff's departments, they're just fast as any other place you move to. The problem I have is the Kerr family purchased this property, well knowing that it was single-family residential. So then they put this deal there so they can make more money and put multiple homes. They call them 12 twin homes. They're not twin homes, they're duplexes. It's a fancy name for duplexes. And what's going to happen with the duplexes, people from out of state, probably California, will buy the duplexes and rent them out. If you see what rentals look like around the neighborhood, there are duplexes, you know they're not very nice. We have a nice development. It's all single-family homes. The homes above Miles Avenue are all single-family homes. There's over 100 homes there. Our development, it's got about 35 homes, I think, I'm not positive. They want to take a little over 6.5 acres and put a whole bunch of property in there. They're talking about building homes for people who are first-time buyers. Well, that's a farce. And I just did some research on it. Most lenders want 20% down. If you build a $600,000 duplex, which is pretty cheap, at $300,000 each unit. At 20% down, that's $60,000 plus 7% interest for a 30% loan. I mean, for a 30-year loan, I'm sorry. So you tell me the first-time buyer can afford $60,000 down on a $300,000 home plus 7% interest? No, it's not going to happen. So it's going to be It's gonna be turned into rentals. And then they want to connect Hubble all the way through to Dakota, which makes it part of the subdivision, which is gonna downgrade our neighborhood. I don't like paying high taxes. I paid, my house was taxed with $600,000, and I paid over $2,000 for a property tax. I don't like paying it, but I'd rather pay it than have a nice neighborhood and have something below me that's gonna devalue my property. And another thing too, they said about telling you how great this is. Are they gonna live there? No, he's gonna build that property, he's gonna buy someplace else and build it. So now we're on a new deal. If we go to mixed family residential, the next piece of property in here and there, it's gonna be the same thing, mixed family residential. So what's gonna happen to the single family homes that make Hayden unique? It's kind of like country out here. And that's why I moved in there in the first place. And you know, if they had, I'm all fine with single family residential. But when you start putting these duplexes and stuff in there, you're gonna get drug dealers and you get all kind of junk going there, especially if they're rentals. And that's my big concern. Now, they talked about traffic. I didn't talk about traffic last time, because I know the traffic is growing and it's just a thing's gonna happen. It's gonna grow more and more people move here and the more traffic they're gonna get. But they got a speed sign there, advisory speed sign that tells you how fast you're going. And it turns red almost all the time, and they don't slow down. They go past, just right before Olympus, they go right past this, because the thing's still red. I sat there and watched my rear view mirror, my side mirror. 5 cars up there, it's all red. I've seen cars go in there and it's flashing red, they still don't slow down. They know that they can't afford to sit a deputy down at the end of the street and give them tickets. It says thank you underneath the sign. Maybe it should say fines double. I don't know if they can do that or not. But it's getting to be ridiculous, you know, they want to take our nice neighborhood, add to that, and we're supposed to like it, not complain about it. And I don't know what else to say about it. It just doesn't seem like right. You know, it seems like we live here and we got to live with it. None of these developers over there are going to live with it. I don't think anybody else in here is going to move in my development because of that. And I don't see what's going to improve my area. It's going to make it worse. And that's all I got to say. So I appreciate you keeping this to single family homes, and I'm well for that, because I just know I figure someday to put houses in there too, but why are we gonna start going to mixed family? Next thing you know, we're gonna go to a bunch of apartments here. And Coeur d'Alene just did a big deal with putting all kind of apartments, all kind of other stuff in there. And they didn't even listen to the citizens to talk to them about it. So apparently they approved it, and they're just gonna make a mass. They're gonna make this place in LA North. That's about the way I look at it. It's going to be so much people, so many houses, so many apartments and stuff. You know, I don't want to live up here. That's some reason why people are moving out of California and some of the other places, because the dense population. So, and I thank you for your information on this.
Thank you, Mr. Wildhammer. I appreciate it. Our next commenter is Tristan Fitzgerald.
Good evening. My name is Tristan Fitzgerald. I am a Hayden resident, and well, our family owns property adjacent to what we're talking about here tonight. I appreciate council members for all your hard work and consideration. It is a complicated thing. We rehashed this one time, and I do think that I was one of the ones, many, who spoke out the first time around in opposition to this. I think that many of those things, all of them, still stand, and I haven't heard anything tonight that that sways me a great deal. I continue to be against it. I'm invested in this area. I'm the one that has 6 kids, and I walk these neighborhoods, and we ride bikes, and we try to be safe here. It's not safe all the time with traffic, and so we have to kind of be careful about when we take our kids out and things like that, because people don't drive. They, as other folks have mentioned, they don't obey the posted speed limits. 25 on Dakota is a joke. It does not happen. So I think that one plus of this, maybe try to get a positive out of here. It is drawing our community together. Like we are rallying around some common themes here. And so I appreciate that. I've met more people in this last few months than I have in years past. And so that's a good outcome of this. I did spend a little bit of quality time with the Hayden 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and I've got a few quotations here. It says it establishes goals and policies intended to guide land use and development and consistent with the community's vision. So I wasn't one of those that was asked anything about the last couple of revisions of this plan. I would guess that most people in this room also were not asked. I think there was a group of stakeholders that probably did that. That maybe is a lapse of me as a citizen. So I'm really trying to become, more involved. And so I would love the opportunity to speak a little bit more to some revisions to this plan, because I don't think that it clearly reflects what our community is asking and wanting. The plan also talks about general vision and desirable future situation. Well, those are a little bit subjective. So that's why we get this public input to inform what our community sees as desirable. So thank you for listening to that. It also talks about that the plan is not stagnant and it's a living document for changes over time. So I'm new here. I don't know how we as citizens go about starting the ball rolling for updating this plan, but I would love for someone to tell me, and I would love to be part of that process for updating this so that all parties can be maybe not misled by some of this. Our land there is in blue, and I'll tell you from our family, we don't want that to be mixed residential in the future, now or in 2040. That's not our vision. I've got 6 kids. I'm going to hopefully pass it down to them, and I'll instill that vision in them too. So I would love to see at least the Fitzgerald span of it be a different color. It also talks about an efficient roadway system that manages traffic well. I think we've talked about that. It does not manage traffic well. And plentiful open space, a small town feel by concentrating development and preserving natural open space. All things that I think we're starting to see some agreement. I didn't really think I would agree with the developer on so many things, but I do agree on a couple of things. Traffic congestion will continue, is what our spokesperson said. I think sometimes we boil this down to a yes or no. I don't think it's just yes or no. I think it's yes, no, or wait. Like I do this with my kids all the time. Yes, you sure can, but not now. We're going to wait on that. So I think that's kind of summing up. If our infrastructure is not there and it's not safe now, it's not no, it's maybe let's wait. Let's pump the brakes a little bit and wait for our infrastructure to catch up to what this development is going to demand in terms of taxing our infrastructure. The strategic plan states that it talks about diminishing quality of life. And I think that's, again, what folks are saying. Like, we moved here for a reason. I'm 3rd generation right here, raising the 4th. And I want this to be a place that my kids would want to live and settle and be because of the quality of life. And I think that some of these decisions absolutely erode that. I know we're not talking about the development, but they're conjoined issues. I agree with other folks. The presenters have said before, like, we aim to have a development that really mirrors the development to the north. Thank you, sir. I don't think that zoning it differently helps mirror what is to the north. I pulled some statistics from 2021 from the National Traffic Safety Administration that talks about a 10.5% increase in fatalities, tens of thousands a year. That up 10.5% in 2021 over 2020, despite reductions in people on the road. So maybe that doesn't apply to Hayden. So either it does apply to Hayden and we're seeing more traffic fatalities, or it doesn't. And so I think by pumping the brakes on development, we can have this not apply to Hayden. I don't want my kids to get hit. As far as what has changed here, I don't think a whole lot has changed. I understand there might be a threat of legal action from the developer, and I would just encourage the council member. Like, we've got great counsel, I think, for a reason, and for my tax dollars, I would ask you to not bow down to bullying or threats of any legal action. I think that we should go toe to toe with it, so that developers can realize that they won't just get green light for anything that they would like. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next commenter is Mr. Vern Fitzgerald.
Good evening.
My name is Vern Fitzgerald. I live at 999 West Dakota Avenue in Hayden. Been here for 70 years. Now, I had a little speech prepared, but in listening to everybody and their comments up until now, that went out the window. We all know why we're here. We all know the objections that have been made to this subdivision and to the zoning change. There hasn't been anything stated tonight that would alleviate any of the problems that were addressed before. The council voted against it once, and I don't see that there's been enough evidence that the reasons it was denied the first time should change. Now, the thing of it is, I get the feeling that if the attached homes were not part of this deal, most people would not have a problem with it. If it matched up with single family with the rest of the neighborhood, go for it. I think that's the biggest drawback right there, is that you're putting an elephant in with cattle. Okay? Now, we're talking about the traffic. Yeah, and you guys could redo Dakota. And I own all the land, the rest of that, to Reed. I have not been approached by the developer in any way, shape, or form to work with them. And I had to go through there, and if anybody drives by my property, you'll notice there's a nice fence that goes the full length of my property. And the reason I put that fence in there is because of the subdivisions and the people that turned my place into a park. Now, the only thing that I see right now, and it wouldn't cost the city a whole heck of a lot of money, is the best improvement you could do on Dakota Avenue is speed bumps. Slow those suckers down. I know that the police have been out there, and I compliment them for stopping. They sit out there in the morning and catch people, but it's nuts. And basically, the bottom line is, he's bought the property. It was zoned the way it was zoned when he bought it. He can still put in whatever amount of houses that zoning allows. I would request that the city council respect the wishes of the neighbors all around there that do not want to have this changed. I mean, you could still make should be able to make a profit off of single family dwellings on that. I have no problem with that. I do know that the next step in the spring, I'm gonna have to go through and fix my fence between the properties, because I got a big hole there, because there used to be, the previous owner, he had a gate so he could pasture his horses on my property. There was a little cooperation there. I gotta fix that. And then periodically, I just have to walk a little further and throw all the garbage from the subdivisions back across the fence. So, they want to develop it with single family, and I think everybody would agree that that would be the way to go. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Could somebody close the door back there? The sun is shining in on me. Thank you.
I stand?
There, if you just stand right there, you're perfect. That's great. Thank you. Yes, now I can see. Thank you.
That is all of the public comments that we had scheduled. We'll now provide an opportunity for Mr. Trezulli to give a rebuttal. And Mr. Trezulli, if I would remind you that your rebuttal is limited to comments that have been made specifically during the public comment period.
Okay. Just to clarify, I'm not an engineer, so I am a project coordinator for an engineering firm. That's just to clarify that. Let's see. From the beginning, just to clarify, we're proposing single-family residences in here. There's a huge disconnect between the product type. I know some of the homeowners don't like it when I call it a product, and the house type, the home type, the construction style. The plat that we brought and was approved by planning and zoning, assuming, or if we got approval of this, was for single-family dwellings, 12 of which would have a party wall. On that party wall is a property line. Each half is owned, what's referred to in real estate as fee simple. You can purchase it, you can own it, you can get title to it. It is a single-family dwelling with a party wall. Duplexes, all of those twin home lots are too small to put a duplex on. So it may be nuance, but that's been the proposal from day one. 25 single-family dwellings, 2 different construction types. That's what's been proposed. I've tried to clarify it, probably going on 8 or 10 times now, but that is the proposal. If this gets shot down again, and this community would be in support of a subdivision that looks identical to Moon Ridge, we would probably bring that forward to council. What it does, and I have to refute, it's not just about profit. In fact, I would say that the profit margin would probably be about the same. I think it shakes out the same regardless of what product we put in there. This was about trying to bring a product to the market that isn't $600,000. I don't know what that end price is yet. I don't know. Not a lot of people are doing this because there's so much resistance to it. So I'm just being straight up with you. The goal from the very beginning, from the first pre-development meeting, was to try to bring 2 distinct housing types to a subdivision and test it out. That's what we did. So that's just clarity on that. With regard to infrastructure, I don't remember which policy it is in the comprehensive plan, but it states, and I'm summarizing here, that development should be accompanied by infrastructure. It doesn't say infrastructure should precede development. That's kind of piggybacking off of what I was saying earlier. If we could open up some dialogue here, we might be able to work together to improve some of these failing intersections, some of these road sections. Again, we talked about potentially collaborating with the city about widening Dakota so that Mr. Fitzgerald could ride his bike there. We could add a bike lane. There's 50 foot of right-of-way that exists today with no additional right-of-way acquisition needed. 50 feet. That's what you've got for your right-of-way on Dakota right now. I think a dialogue is far more fruitful than this. Go away, come back with some revisions to your plan, and we'll tell you if we like it or don't like it, and then go away again. It's not productive if the true goal is to work together to improve the street network and the intersections and help alleviate some of these concerns. To your point about never mind, I'm going to move past that. With regard to amendments to the future land use map, I couldn't agree more. We have your guiding documents. That's what we have. That's what I analyze when I bring these projects forth. If the community and this council hates anything that isn't R1 or residential suburban, I'm pleading with you. You've had opportunity. Just update the future land use map and we can just skip all this. If the goal is to bring forth some different housing types in an attempt to create some diversity and hopefully some price ranges, that was the goal of this future land use map that was adopted. I think transparency and just straight up saying, these are the goals, we're memorializing this, don't bring us anything that even resembles multifamily ever again, that would be very helpful on our end. Because this is what I've got. Again, the preliminary plat that is approved, not a duplex in there. And then with regard to the comprehensive plan being sort of done in secret, that there was a ton of public outreach for that comp plan. I mean, Councilman Satterfield, I know you were present during all that. I know Mr. Roeder was. I remember about the only two people that showed up at those workshops was Ed and myself. We were there from the beginning. And they were stuffing flyers down at Super One in grocery bags to try to get the community to show up and join those workshops. There was public outreach all over the place. I saw it from the beginning, starting in 2018, so that did happen. And with regard to an accusation of legal threat to the city if we don't get our way, patently false. Again, I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Time is 6:54 and we are closing the public hearing. We'll now move to council deliberation. Council can proceed with deliberations tonight or schedule for a later date. Council members, comments, questions?
Sure, I'll start it.
Councilmember DePriest.
Thank you. Boy, I think my comments from the original hearing are not really concerned with the type. Okay, as Mr. Terzulli said, he could put 25 single-family homes in there, okay, to satisfy that concern. My concern, and as was spoken of prior to and again tonight, is Dakota Avenue and the width of Dakota Avenue. And some people have talked about walking their dogs, their kids riding their bikes. That is my primary concern about this. And the number of cars, if there's 25, let's average out, it's gonna be 50 more cars coming out of there alone. You run that street out of Moon Ridge, and I would venture guess that people coming out of Moon Ridge who want to go east will come out of Moon Ridge and try and turn left on Dakota. So I guess I'm gonna kind of bear with me here because I've got a ton of notes. Cortair was brought up, and I watched 4 or 5 hours of that last night, whatever that was. And it's a lot of the same issues that we talk about here. Okay, the future land use map. Okay, and I don't know if I misunderstood. I did not attend any of those workshops. I didn't hear about this until 2021 or whatever it was. Not at the workshops you did. Not for those you didn't. I started speaking at meetings about growth and stuff like that. When was I elected? 2021, roughly January or whatever it was of 2021. But anyways, the sheriff, in his letter, the last paragraph, he writes, lastly, a final area to consider is increased congestion with traffic from the development proposed and the surrounding surface streets that will have to handle this additional traffic flow, which could further burden rapid law enforcement response. Now comes the stuff. We hear about expert testimony and traffic studies and this and that. And reality in my world is a lot different than mathematical projections and calculations. Okay, we have testimony from the residents who live there every day. Okay, they walk those streets, they ride their bikes, they have kids, grandkids, whatever it is. And that's the concern that they see. Firsthand day-to-day experience and observation of traffic numbers, speeds, congestion, et cetera, safety, the narrow streets, no sidewalks, hazards. That's real life. That's live people who see it all day, every day. it's interesting. And I'm going to go back to last night again, the council for the Cortair Group. They talked about the future land use map again. Their council, the applicant's council, stressed the future land use map and comp plans are guides. They do not mandate. These are direct quotes out of it. Zoning need not comply with the comp plan zoning. There is flexibility. There's a comment from their attorney. I believe one of our speakers said, yes, no, wait. And again, the 2040 comprehensive plan is just that, a plan into 2040. This is 2023. Okay, it's what the group who put it together, I can only assume because I wasn't part of it, envisioned over the next 20 years. Not that it has to happen now, not that it has to happen 5 years, but whatever. It's been brought up when the community is ready for it. And and again, the discussion about working to, with the city, combining to find a way to widen Dakota, to put the sidewalks in, to do the stuff that would make that a safer area so that people could walk on the sidewalks, kids could ride their bikes safely and what have you, okay, I would approve something like that. I do not have a problem with the design per se. It's what it's going to create with regards to the health and safety of people trying to walk, ride their bikes, and use Dakota. The future land use map's 20-year plan, maybe in time, within that 20 years, the street at some point will allay, if that's the right word, the safety concerns that should be addressed. Okay. What else do I have going on here? Again, I'm going to reiterate my policy number 4 related to the comprehensive plan, policies and goals and things like that. Policy 4 should evaluate community-wide development. The city should evaluate community-wide impacts from development, identifying their needs for public facilities, utilities, services, and circulation is traffic, transportation, the roads. That's what that word circulation refers to. Policy number 13, infrastructure and roads. Roads should be accompanied by development of infrastructure. Policy 15, man-made risks are when you add more vehicles to roadways. Protect lives and property from environmental and man-made risks and hazards. Okay. The man-made risk is that, in my opinion, is that the road is not wide enough. There are not sidewalks, that more vehicles coming onto there will increase the hazard and safety of the people who live on that street and use it. So many freaking notes. Again, my concern really, again, is not so much the intersection. That's going to be dealt with. It is basically Ramsey East and those people who live on that street and travel on that street and try and walk and bike on that street. You know, if we just get to the point where the developer widens for their piece, and then you have a pinching effect or whatever you want to call it, where it's narrow, wide, narrow again, and stuff like that. And that's why I would really emphasize that if possible, there could be something worked out where this road could be widened, because that's the big hangup with me, at least. I don't think there's any development or any expectation of leaving it undeveloped. I think there have been comments that residential suburban would be considered as it stands right now, or some other type of considered development. But again, me personally, whatever came in front of me personally, that these people all have their own ideas and own beliefs. Again, the safety on that road has to be addressed. And I will leave it at that for now.
Other comments from council members? Councilmember White.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Well, I agree with Jeremy on some of his points, like getting involved earlier in the process or finding out a way for the developer to know earlier in the process. I feel the same way. I would like to know early in the process what's going on. And the fact that Cortair has been approved, that's thousands of homes, not too far from us here. I don't know the exact miles, but I know it's pretty close. And it is going to impact Hayden. It's going to impact our roads, the cost of road repairs, and mitigating that traffic. And so that's something we have to take into consideration. We have no control over that. Let's see. I was gonna read, I guess Mr. Fitzgerald did read part of the vision of the city of Hayden, but I would like to read it again. Hayden is a regionally connected city with a small town feel. Defined by responsible growth and planning, the city maintains strong systems that align with the values of its citizens, including top-tier K-12 schools, an efficient roadway system that manages traffic well, and plentiful open space. The city maintains a small-town feel, emphasis small-town feel, by concentrating high-impact development at nodes and along corridors and preserving natural open space. The city also encourages a small business culture to enhance and encourage a healthy, connected, family-friendly community. And I think we're very different. And the fact that we are so close to Cortair and to the city of Coeur d'Alene and other big cities, we're unique, we're different, and we'd like to preserve that as much as possible. I feel like by approving this zone change, this zone amendment, the city council, correct me if I'm wrong, the city council is stepping out of the process. Once they have that zone approved, then they come to our community development and develop it as they see fit with that. We pretty much step out of the process after that. So, I don't feel ready to do that, to approve of that today. I feel like we can't guarantee affordability or prices. We can't prove that there's a need for more homes. We can say if we build them, they'll come, but we can't prove the need for it. Testing out two housing types, I don't feel like testing out two housing types right now is something, and you can test something that you can change, or test something if it doesn't work, you undo it, but you can't undo housing types. And, I was not in the comprehensive plan workshops myself either. I came in right after those were approved, right when the zone changes were being made. And so I feel like some of these things, like the preserve, these are in the goals, preserving, protecting, strengthen the vitality and stability of existing neighborhoods. I feel that's really important. And to preserve that small town feel would be to deny this right now. And then also coordinate the timely development. That's number 15. Coordinate the timely development of efficient, effective, and environmentally sound sewer, water, and other utilities. But what I want to emphasize there is the timely development. The comp plan does have future land use map, but the future land use map is like Councilmember Dupree said, it doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't have to be something that's that we do against what impacts the community. In the policies, we have number 4, the city should evaluate community-wide impacts from development. And I think based on what we've heard tonight, the community would feel impacted. They would feel like their lifestyle, their small town feel would be taken from them. So I'm gonna say, let's see what else is there. Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, and again, the property was purchased knowing it was suburban recently, and so I would just say that we would like to evaluate the community-wide impact on this development, and that's what I have to say for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Satterfield.
I appreciate Jeremy's comment about nobody showed up when we had the party. And it was very disappointing because we wanted community involvement and we got little of it. After the fact, we got lots of it. But that was disappointing to me. But anyway, to what's at hand, I don't feel goal 5 or goal 3 is being met. Goal 5 has already been addressed by the other council members. Goal 3 is a balanced mix of land density. I've been on council a long time. Some folks would say too long, but nevertheless, I'm still here. And I know one of the visions we had was not row after row after row of developments, housing developments, houses. We wanted to mix suburban, residential, mixed, and the goal was to have it so the traffic could be handled. We knew that would probably never be handled until we made improvements, but it was a big consideration. So open space is another consideration. You know, people need a little bit of room to breathe. I have a tough time driving down Ramsey and looking at white plastic fences. There's some other colors too, but I don't see a lot of open space there. Traffic, it's been brought up by the other council members. It relates to safety of the neighborhoods. And I don't think by changing this zoning is going to improve the safety. Transportation plan. You know, the transportation plan is for present and future. Maybe in the future, this might work. We're working on extending Ramsey. We're working on the intersection at Ramsey and Hayden. Those things, in my belief, is they should come first before we start approving these high density or larger density, not that this is high density. One of the things that was brought up was impact fees, that we get all these impact fees. Well, growth is supposed to pay for itself. Well, I've been on council almost 16 years. I've yet to see it pay for itself. It does not. Impact fees are woefully not adequate. Who's the first one to show up when we talk about raising it? And it's developers. We can't sell the houses if you raise impact fees and stuff. Well, I haven't seen any problem with houses in Hayden being sold. They sell pretty doggone fast because of what Hayden is. Land use, comp plan, they're flexible. They're not written in stone. If the buyer knew it was residential suburban when the property was bought, yes, the land use says something different in the future, but that's not written in stone. The current zoning is written in stone. Majority of people that have showed up here tonight made comments, they're against it. They live in this neighborhood. And I think that that's one thing the Coeur d'Alene has been brought up that is woefully overlooked is the impact to the residents that live there. When they moved there, they knew that was residential suburban. and now we want to change it on them. I don't think that's fair. And in closing, something that warmed my heart and made me very proud was a recent letter to the editor that said Hayden seems to be the only citizen or only city in Kootenai County that is for responsible growth and wants to make it and keep it a great place to live. So that made me proud, and that made me feel very good that I know we haven't made all the good decisions, but at least we're headed down the right road. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Satterfield. I would like to address for a couple of moments here the actual request for reconsideration. There were 5 points brought up on the request for reconsideration that I would like to note. The number one is that Mr. Fursell noted that he estimated the impact fees collected from these homes would be around $60,000, which would only cover striping. This statement is incorrect and could have swayed council members to believe the traffic could not be addressed with a collection of fees. This is absolutely correct. That was an incorrect statement. If after the council meeting and upon further investigation, I found that striping would be much less than $60,000, and if that statement swayed any council member to vote in any direction at the last meeting, I would appreciate it if you would disregard that first comment. Second, the deliberations concentrated on health and safety and welfare concerns. Information identifying non-compliance with the International Fire Code was presented at the public hearing and was disregarded. Respectfully, I disagree with it. I actually, a couple of hours after Mr. Terzulli got a hold of the fire marshal yesterday, I also spoke with him. And he said, okay, I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing. And that is that Northern Lakes Fire Protection District will always support multiple access points to a subdivision, but will not mandate them. The council read the fire marshal's first letter, and the council members also read the second letter. I think it's important to note that simply because we do not comment in our public session on every comment here does not mean that we disregarded the fire marshal's comments. We did understand them and we knew where they were coming from. The next comment is that the council members invalidated the findings within the master transportation plan using irrelevant and anecdotal information. The council is clearly concerned with traffic. I and other council members are concerned that the transportation master plan began preparation in 2013. It was finished in 2017. And we are concerned that it may not have adequately predicted the increased traffic that we face today. 2018, when it was published, to 2023, we have seen, any of you that have lived here for 5 years or more, we have seen huge increases in traffic in 5 years. And I am not convinced that our transportation master plan actually foresaw what was going to be happening. We have lots of development north of our city limits and west of our city limits in Rathdrum. That traffic is coming through our town now, and I'm not sure it was ever addressed. Council has indicated in other meetings, council meetings, an interest in revisiting the traffic study to either validate or update the numbers. Number 4, the statements within the written decision that council members would like the property to remain residential suburban represent an opinion that are in direct conflicts with the comprehensive plan. Council's concern reflects the importance of open space in the city's vision statement. Right as Councilmember White read, directly in the front of the vision statement, it talks about the importance of open space. It also talks about the importance of open space in Goal 9 and policies 7 and 13 of the comprehensive plan, which I don't believe have been met. Residential suburban, the current zone, was much more towards the liking of open space than mixed residential. The future land use map is a 30,000 foot level plan that takes a look at what the city envisions Hayden to look like in the future. The future land use map is not law. Rather than saying that the council's opinion is in direct conflict with the future land use map, I prefer to think that the council's opinion is to follow what the law is, which is residential suburban. Current city code says this property is zoned residential suburban. And this is an opportunity that we have to change the code, but it is not a requirement to do so. Finally, as Mr. Tuzuli pointed out, and Councilmember DePriest pointed out, in our city code, coming straight out of state law, it says the actions, if any, that the applicant could take to obtain approval. Based on what I'm hearing tonight, and I have not discussed this with any of the council members, but the developer certainly has the opportunity to develop as is as a residential suburban. That's basically half-acre lots. The applicant is asking council to jump 2 zone density classifications, which is very difficult for council to swallow. That's a hard pill. Open space is important. I have no idea if the council would be interested in taking a look at a park within this area, but it might be worth taking a look at. Similarly, a traffic study, although I understand Mr. Tuzuli has done this in-house, to show that the effects on the surrounding streets and intersections, Orchard, Ramsey, the Ramsey and Hayden intersection, and the Orchard and US 95 intersection. Council may be interested in seeing that. That's the information that I have. Do any council member have any other comments? Councilmember White.
Yes, I would like to comment about the comment you made about the striping and stuff. I felt like that was tagged on at the end, and that all of us had been able to make our statements and state what we felt was good and proper before you made that statement. So I don't think that influenced me at all. It was just a tag on. And by saying that we emphasized public health, safety, and general welfare, well, that's because that's in the standards of approval. That's in B, standard of approval. And so when we're talking about the standards of approval, we're talking about the community needs, public health, safety, and general welfare. So I would say the emphasis on that is because that's what the standard of approval was.
Councilmember DePriest.
Thank you. Kind of to go right on that, and again, just speaking for myself here, I believe that quite possibly is the number one responsibility that we have up here, is to always consider the health, safety, and welfare of anything that is done within the city and how it's going to affect everybody on a community-wide basis, which is another term that's always used. Again, we talk about Mr. Mayor Forcell.
Senator DePriest.
Yes, thank you. Suggested, yeah, if any, how can this gain approval? He mentioned the residential suburban as it is. I've mentioned possibly some type of collaboration to deal with my main concern, which is, and don't need to go over the road width and sidewalk and safety issue of that right there. So that I just want to emphasize, I think our job is job one, health, safety, and welfare.
Councilmember Satterfield.
Just set the record straight, the $60,000 striping. My former life, I did too much construction work. I knew that was probably not accurate. So just wanted to go on the record to say that.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember DePriest.
I'd like to make the motion do we deny the reconsideration? Is that what we do here?
If you're making a motion to deny the reconsideration, it's probably best stated to affirm our previous decision.
Okay. I would make the motion that council affirms our previous decision related to PZE 230037.
Just for clarification, I believe our previous decision was PZE 22-0128.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, would
Okay,
you
well,
like to amend that?
yeah, what am I'm seeing,
Right.
so the okay, I need to go on. Okay, scratch that one off. I would make a motion that the council affirm our decision regarding PZE 22-0128, Kerr Zone Map Amendment.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We take a break.
Take a break. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Come back and start again.
Thank you, Roger. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. We're on the air again, resuming our meeting.
Live from Hayden.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is unfinished business. It's an action item, the PZE 23-0009, vacation of the flame and cork plat ordinance. Is that, Alan, is that Donna? Donna, there you go. Once again, Donna, it's all yours. Could you give us a brief background on that?
So at the last meeting in February, the city council agreed to vacate the plat of Flame and Cork at the request of the owner, and the written decision of that was in the consent calendar, which was approved tonight. So the ordinance that's here would effectively put that into effect, to vacate it back to the Merritt Brothers first edition that existed prior.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion or questions from council?
Any motion?
Hearing none, I'd be happy to entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
You have your book.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, I would like to have a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. May I, if there's no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
6. I'll now read the ordinance by title only. An ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the vacation of the plat identified as Flame and Cork Estates, as described in Section 1 of this ordinance and located in the City of Hayden, providing that title to said vacated plat shall remain with the property owners of the platted area, providing severability, and providing an effective date. I would now like to hear a motion that the ordinance be adopted on having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote, please. Abby?
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
And Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. 5B, PZE 23-002, Zone Text Amendment Ordinance. Donna?
So similar to the last one, the public hearing, second public hearing for the proposed zone text amendments was approved at the last city council meeting. The written decision was approved under the consent calendar, and this is the ordinance to put that text amendment into effect.
Is there any discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, I would like a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. If there is no further discussion, this is the title of the ordinance.
Oh, let me do it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can I do a roll call?
Oh, thank you very much. Roll call vote, please, Abby. Yeah.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Good job. Here's the ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, amending subsection 11-1-7E amendment procedure, amending section 11-2-3 general notes, and amending section 11-2-4 notes, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing severability, and providing for the publication of this ordinance by summary, and providing an effective date. I'd now appreciate a motion that the ordinance be adopted on having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary incorporating the title of as the core of the summary upon passage.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 5C, approval of local professional services agreement with David Evans and Associates for the final design of Phase 1B for the Ramsey Road Extension Project. There any comment or questions from council?
Alan?
Yes. Did Alan get a comment or no?
Would you like me to?
Certainly. Would you like to give us an overview?
Yeah. As I was talking some of the shops we've had and recently council members about the Ramsey Road Extension Project, we talked about the fact that it was split in two phases. For funding reasons, we were going to build the first phase this next summer, not this coming, but the one after. And then the local agencies found additional funding and they funded the second part. The design of that is not 100% done. It has to get done in order to complete that project. This is a project that the council entered into agreement with to complete clear back in it was either 2012 or 2013. So this is just the final step in getting that final design done and ready for construction in the summer 2024.
So then we have essentially a contract with state and federal government on
You do.
the funding that we have been given on this. It is my understanding that for the total cost of the project that the federal government is paying
Roughly 93%.
93%.
Roughly.
The city is
And 7.
matching the 7%.
Correct.
And that if we do not, we back out of this agreement or this contract, that the city is liable for all of the costs the federal government has incurred so far?
You very well could be. The position they would take is, I don't know, but it's certainly in their purview to take action against the money spent.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there any further questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember White.
Thank you. I would just like to just ask one thing. Have all the necessary right-of-ways been acquired for this project?
I believe the simple answer is no. However, we are likely in a position where we are only 2 parcels away from acquiring all that.
Okay, so tell me again the streets that this covers.
Pardon?
Tell me again, would you please tell me again where, from what street to what street on Ramsey?
This project would be from Buckles Road near Reed, going along the east side of the airport and connect up to Lancaster.
Okay. All right, and when are those properties anticipated to be acquired?
Well, one of we think has been at the county for 6 months. We're trying to find it, the documents. Once they're found, I think they'll be acquired. Another one is probably being signed right now. There was a notary that was missed on the document. There's just minor things other than one property may take a little longer.
Okay, so you're not seeing problems with that? Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Satterfield?
This Ramsey Road project has been underway for many years now. I wish we could have done it 10 years ago because I think it would have helped with the current traffic issues we have in the city of Hayden. Rathdrum has built a lot of subdivisions, come down Ramsey, they end up on Government Way. Nobody likes using Highway 95. You've got this Coeur d'Alene thing that's coming up now. Our streets continue to be impacted by other cities. And this Ramsey Road development, it's not going to solve all the problems, but it's certainly going to help. And we should keep it moving and get this done. I know we still got a ways to go, but we need to get it done.
Any further comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I would be happy to entertain a motion on this.
Motion to approve, local professional services agreement with David Evans and Associates for final design of Phase 1B for Ramsey Road Extension Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. Unfinished business item 5B, approval of the engineering services agreement with Welch Comer for Hayden and Ramsey roundabout design phase.
Again?
Alan?
All right. Mayor and council, this is really kind of keeping in step with everything you talked about this evening and that you heard from the public, in that there are intersections and locations in that city that need to be improved to mitigate congestion and traffic issues. And at one of the council meetings prior, probably 2 or 3 months ago, settled upon the method of improving that intersection. Council voted to move forward with the design of the roundabout at that intersection. This contract is that contract to move forward with the design of that roundabout at Ramsey and Hayden Avenue.
Thank you. Are there any other further questions from council? Councilmember Satterfield?
No questions, just a comment, Mayor. You know, as Alan already said, this may well be the most integral part of solving some traffic issues, is to have that roundabout there. And it's not going to be easy, but it's absolutely essential to keep traffic on Ramsey Road flowing. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember White?
Thank you. Okay, my main question is about perceived conflict of interest on this intersection, on this work, because this was approved in October 25th to move forward, but then it was shortly after that by Welch Comer to do it. But then shortly after that, Melissa Cleveland became the executive director of Urban Renewal. And then shortly after that, Urban Renewal came out with a map putting this property in their future district. And so I'm just concerned about a perceived conflict of interest with the connections between Welch Comer and Urban Renewal. Okay.
Councilmember DePreez? Okay, thank you.
In regards to her issue, I think, are you, Councilmember White, are you referring to their consideration of expansion?
Yes, and or a second district.
Yeah, I don't think it could be expanded. It would have to be that second district. And if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's on the map for expansion. It's on the 10% map.
It's connected to the existing HER district?
It's one of their options.
Okay. I believe.
I don't have that in front of me. I should have brought that.
Yeah, that's pretty far down to be, but I don't know for sure either. But I believe that expansion and a new district has to come before council, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think at this point in time, it is not, I wouldn't consider it a conflict of interest. It's not currently a part of the HER district.
For a city attorney, I'm sorry, Mr. Soderling, go
The
ahead.
expansion of that district, it's not only has to come before council, it has to be implemented by the council.
Right.
And so you would have to choose where that's at, and where that went. And so I just want to clarify that. And there is no currently any HURRY money in this because it is not in the district.
That's my point. Thank you.
Does that, Councilmember White, does that resolve your concerns about it?
I think it's a perceived conflict of interest. Could we ask council about that?
Sure. So I think Mr. Soderling just explained it well. There's no HERA dollars involved in this project, and this particular intersection is not currently within the HERA district. So there would not be a conflict.
In the event that it is expanded and this intersection is included in the HERA district, as a follow-up to Councilmember White's question, what safeguards would the city have to ensure that there would be no conflict of interest with the executive director of HERA also working for Welch Comer?
If there were going to be HERA dollars spent on a city project, that would come before you at a public meeting for a vote by this council on whether or not you believe there's a conflict of interest and what action to be taken at that time.
Councilmember Priest.
Any further comment, I guess?
Councilmember White, does that answer the question for you?
It answers the question, but it still leaves a doubt in my mind because they are thinking of expanding soon. And they've been talking about it in the last few meetings, and this property is in consideration for the 10% growth that is anticipated soon. So I'm concerned.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Councilmember Priest.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make a motion for approval of engineering services agreement with Welch Comer for Hayden and Ramsey roundabout design phase.
Do we have a second from council? We have a motion and a second from council. Is there other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White?
No?
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to item 6, new business, which I assume is what most of you sitting here and hurting with those chairs are here for this evening.
Civic-minded people.
This is the voltage tattoos appeal of the staff determination of allowed uses. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a staff appeal, so council will deliberate, but we have no opportunity for public comment on this. Donna?
I'm going to do a summary of the staff review just so that we'll kind of understand what they're appealing, the request, and then I'll turn it over to Amanda Wise, who's out here somewhere, and let them present. So this is PZE 230031. It's an appeal of a staff determination of allowed uses for the voltage tattoos. So just to give some background, in November 2022, the city received a complaint regarding the use of a tattoo parlor operating in the central business district. So we did some research on October 8th. In 2021, a verification of occupancy was submitted for this location. So in workshops or I don't know how much of this we've talked about before, but when a new non-residential business, whether they're a tenant improvement or they are a new construction, the city requires the applicant to provide a verification of occupancy. That lets them describe the uses that they're proposing in that location. So staff's not kind of guessing at it. They're actually providing that information, providing kind of how many employees they've got going on, the contact people, whether the building is an existing building or if it's a new building. And if it's an existing building, staff looks at that verification of occupancy and it has a twofold prong. Part of it's reviewed from a building perspective, part of it's reviewed from a planning perspective. Planning looks at it to see first and foremost, is the use that's being proposed an allowed use within the zone designation that the use is being requested for. So as an example, entirely not related to this, if you wanted to put in an entirely retail establishment, I don't know, some big box store in the middle of a light industrial zone, it's not an allowed use. Does that mean a big box store is not a great business? No. It means that the big box store, which is a retail use, isn't allowed in light industrial, and therefore it couldn't be in light industrial. So we don't really get mucked in them whether it's a good use or a bad use. We just look at the uses and say, is this an allowed use or not an allowed use? So when the verification of occupancy came in on October 8th, it was looked at, and it was looked at for uses, and the use where you're applying tattoos is not an allowed use in the central business district. And that verification of occupancy that's in your memo, you got the response that went back from that submittal that said, no, it wasn't allowed. The city didn't receive any building permits for this tenant space, for any tenant improvements. So we kind of, and we didn't have any sign permits that came in that said voltage tattoos. Sign permits in the city of Hayden, if you have an existing frame of a sign and you take the plate out and you put a new plate in, you don't have to get a sign permit. If you take the frame off and you put a new sign up, then you have to come in and get a sign permit. And we have seen no sign permits for voltage tattoos. So additionally, as the verification of occupancy, we were kind of asked as part of this process by part of the council, what has the city done since the verification of occupancy was denied and today? Honestly, the city believed that the proposed tenant wouldn't open for business in this location and would move to another location. So then just looking at the site, as you're coming down Government Way, you will see 9551, and it has a Voltage Studios sign on the front of the building, and then it has a Voltage kind of banner sign applied in the location here. Again, Voltage Studios and Voltage Tattoos, as far as we're concerned, are two separate businesses, not related. They could be related, they may not be related, I don't have a clue. 9551 is on a separate parcel in a separate building. 9521 is a tenant space that used to have, the last I really knew what was going on in that building, used to have a radio station in it. And effectively, apparently now it's a new business for Forbidden Beauty. But again, the complaint wasn't about Voltage Studios. It wasn't about Forbidden Tattoos, the complaint that was received, Forbidden Beauty or Voltage Salon. It was about a tenant space in 9515 operating as a tattoo establishment. So the only place that we were looking at, as far as the city's perspective, was that particular tenant space of that building. So then just as an overlay district, the central business district is an overlay district with zone designation. Certain uses the city wanted to see in the central business district area and overlays over the top of commercial, but it has restrictions. So there are many uses that are allowed in commercial that are not allowed in the central business district. So in your memo, we took an excerpt and then attached to the, in the memo itself, we included the entire use table of the code. And in the definition section of the code, it identifies personal service as being a facility that provides individualized services generally related to personal needs. These could include, but are not limited to, beauty and healthcare services such as hair and nail salons and barbershops, tattoo parlors, body piercings, or massage establishments. So as you're looking up here in the category of personal services, they give you the allowed uses in commercial of the types of personal services, the allowed uses in central business district, the allowed uses in light industrial and in mixed use, and then which ones could be allowed by conditional use permit in the neighborhood commercial node. It specifically excludes in the central business district laundry and dry cleaning services, massage establishments, tattoo parlors, and body piercing. So although they are personal services and they are allowed in other zone designations, they are not allowed in the central business district. So then the question was, what can be done to resolve the violation? So my first choice is not my first choice. But again, remember, the verification of occupancy came in. They were notified that they couldn't be there at the beginning, and the city assumed that they didn't open in that location. So they could move the business to a zone designation where the use is allowed. I don't like any businesses to leave Hayden. I like them all to remain in Hayden, but this use is not allowed in this zone. Or they could request a zone code text amendment to allow the use in the central business district. However, there are no guarantees that the text amendment would be approved by the city council at the completion of the public hearing process. So it's the same zone code text amendment, similar to code text amendments that the council has brought forward. Anybody in the public can bring forward a request to change the code to effectively put a C or an A or some other thing in place of this blank. But then it would go through a public hearing. They would pay the fees and the costs associated with that. It would go through a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then it would come back before the council with a public hearing before City Council. It would also afford folks the ability to be present to provide testimony both in favor or neutral or against that proposed change. And so at the end of this hearing, the City Council could approve the appeal request, basically saying that the use is allowed where it's at and in this zone, and appeal their request to allow them to remain there. The council could deny the appeal request that basically supports the staff's determination that the use is not allowed in this zone. Or the council may stay the appeal, which means not make a decision. You're not making a decision tonight. You stay the decision, and you give a period of time for the applicant to cure the violation in one of the two options that were presented here. And then if at the end of that period of time, they haven't cured the decision, haven't done one of these two things and come to a solution, then you would have to make a decision based on that result. Okay. Does that make sense? I can stand for questions. I do have Melinda in the back. She's our assistant planner. She's been working diligently on this process. If I can't answer the questions, I'm sure she can.
I have one question. If the council denies the appeal request, is there a period of time that is allowed for the use to continue before it goes away? Okay, at this point, you're supposed to.
It's a I mean, if the council affirms staff's decision, it's a violation of code, so it would move.
Okay, it would follow code procedures. Okay, thank you. Do other members of council have, Donna?
Yeah.
Councilmember White?
Donna, could you go back a few slides to the personal use definition, their personal service definition? So I see personal service, does that include tattoo parlors? I'm not understanding the definition.
It does. It lists that the definition of personal services includes all of the uses, but it's like restaurants with drive-throughs, for example. Restaurants are restaurants. Some of them have drive-throughs. Some of them don't have drive-throughs. But if you have a drive-up window in the central business district, you're required to get a conditional use permit in order to allow that to occur. In this case, personal services, it was identified by somebody, but our code today says that tattoo parlors and body piercing, they didn't want them to be located in the central business district.
Okay. I see the word personal services there twice.
It is.
So what does the second personal service mean?
So this personal service was I can't speak. I'm just saying that what it looks to appear is that all personal services are allowed in the central business district, but the ones that are blank are excluded, that are not allowed uses. So it is what it is. What the code says.
Donna, do you remember when the CBD was passed by council?
I can tell you that this code came into effect in April, and that the request for the verification of occupancy came in October. So this code was in existence before this business requested to be here.
If I'm not mistaken, it's got to be at least 10 years ago.
Correct. But when we went through the uses table as part of the update to the code amendments, we did an overhaul of the uses and their definitions. So
All right, thanks.
it's important to stick with where we're at.
Other
All right.
questions? Okay. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Ms. Wise? Please come up and talk to us.
What I'm gonna do is most of everything that's up there, but it's kind of like a little
Thank you.
follow along, and then I have that. I'll take anything submitted for.
I'll give this to you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Miranda Wise. I am the owner of Voltage Studios. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go with all of this, besides I have sheer nerves right now, because it has been a very long and anticipated process to get here. But
Ms. Wise, I encourage you just to relax. We don't bite. Okay? It's all right.
okay, so I'm the owner and operator of Voltage Studios Salon, Spa, and Tattoo. I have been with my husband now for 19 years. We have 3 kids together, and we have made it a point to invest ourselves in this community. In the past I'm going to skip off my little script here. In the past 2.5 years, where we talk about the different parcels and buildings that are on there, my husband and I, on our own dime, have fully remodeled each one of those because we are trying to invest ourselves back into this community. We want to see things grow and change, and everything that is happening in our downtown CBD district makes me elated to see all the new businesses that are coming in there. And unfortunately, because of this process, but fortunately, I've got to meet every single one of our neighbors all the way down up until Honeysuckle. And I can't say enough about some of the amazing people that we have there. The issue that we have right now is there is some definite conflict in how I believe that the codes are written and what they say. Here, I'll get to this. The city of Hayden states that they want progress. They want to expand and grow like the other communities around. And there's been countless hours in state funds generating reports, statistics, graphs, polls, and yet we continue to live decades behind. In the city's 2020-2040 comprehensive plan, from everything that I've pulled on there, it is the citizens stating that they want to not see empty buildings. They want to see different retail options and professional services that are offered. And that's exactly what we have done. We are one business under 3 roofs, all full of amazing and talented women who are at the top of their profession. This is the building in topic. Clearly, this is the before, and this is the after. We are trying to set a standard, and we're not just a salon, we're not just a tattoo parlor. There's personal cosmetics that are in there, which when I had my original meeting back, back in October 21, I submitted an occupancy application to the city of Hayden. On October 18th, I received an email back stating that after review my application, it had been denied because tattoo parlors and piercing establishments are not permitted in the CBD district, and the city of Hayden cannot accommodate this type of business. The next day, I called and I spoke with former city employee Zach Trevino per the email who I was to contact. And after speaking with him, he said if I put together a presentation about my businesses, that he would talk to the director and show them my presentation. On October 27th, 2021, I received an email back from him stating that he had spoke with the city director and nothing had changed. The very next day, on October 28th, 2021, I went down to the city of Hayden to try to gain further clarification around this matter. I sat and met with Zach for over an hour and at the conclusion of our meeting, he was supposed to email me back the next steps in the process. When I didn't hear from him again, I honestly thought this matter was behind us. It wasn't until I received another letter from the city in November 2022 regarding my business that this was still an issue. So this is where we came now is, let me get to the part. These are the different sites that we have. It is this bottom one here. This is the newest one that we just finished remodeling, and this is the existing one of the original building, which is our salon. Where, like Councilmember White said, where it states under personal services, under the definition, that it's a facility that provides individualized services generally related to personal needs. These include, but are not limited to, beauty and healthcare services such as hair and nail salons and barbershops, tattoo parlors, body piercing, or massage establishments. If you go through all the definitions that are written in the codes, there is not an individualized definition for tattoo parlors, body piercings, or massage establishments. Everything else that there's in there. And these are allowed in both commercial and the central business district. So this is where I see the list of what is allowed and what's allowed. But we're not a tattoo parlor and body piercing. We do not do any piercings of any sort. We are an all-female tattoo artist that are there. There's permanent cosmetics. We have local retail from different artists that are in the area that can go, they can sell their art there. They get 100% of the commission. We have local artists that make earrings that are in there. We do teeth whitening and tooth gems that are all in there. This isn't your run-of-the-mill tattoo parlor that has riffraffs or bikers. Half of my girls are in here today in support of it, and they're not what you assume to be. We're your neighbors, we're your sisters, we're your friends. That the city states that they want long-term businesses and not the constant turnover. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is build and add to the community. We gathered in a matter of a week, and it's part of your pamphlet that's in there that I didn't want to bore everyone with. There's over 1,800 signatures from local people that are in support of it. And then on the very last little chapter that you have of 5, these are all from our direct businesses that surround us, that have gotten to know us and are in support and realize that they've taken a chance to come in there and to see the place and to meet the girls. So don't necessarily know where to go from here, but there's clearly an internal conflict of how things are written. Like Donna had said, if you have a drive-through or a fast food and it has a drive-through, there's a conditional where it can be conditional. As far as this, where it states tattoo parlors and body piercings, is that and or both? But in the CB district, because we fall under personal services, it's clear in the definition. It at least needs to have a C next to it, or we need to be in the category as a true personal service.
With your permission, perhaps council members can ask you questions
please.
now. Okay,
Question.
okay. Mr. DePreez.
Thank you. I'm looking at your signatures here. And was this online or how did you gather these signatures, I guess?
Yeah, so it was it's called change.org. So for all the back page one?
No, I'm talking about, I heard the number 1800 or whatever,
Yes.
all of these.
Yeah, so it's from a website called change.org, and that is their generated report. And there's been more since this was printed,
Okay.
but
So what I'm seeing here are, Sacramento, Peabody, Houston, Omaha, Hutchinson, Asante, Pineville. These aren't local people. Well, there's some in there. There's some Haydens, stuff like that. But when I take in the whole picture, I see just tons and tons of non-Hayden, non-Coeur d'Alene, non-North Idaho, and that's okay. But I'm just kind of curious about the gathering process for that. Did you say that these last 10 or whatever they're 12 or 15 on the back, or they look like they are all local?
they're all the surrounding businesses around.
Surrounding businesses?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the ones that were gathered, we've had people fly in from St. Petersburg, Florida to go get tattooed there. We have people come from Seattle, Utah, Montana, California. We just had one. So
I was just curious about the gathering process and how, 1,800 and probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 12 to 1,500 are probably not from the immediate area without counting them, like this. I was just curious about your gathering process.
Yeah, it was from us, between all of the buildings. It was us putting it out there to essentially sending our clients a message that have been there and are in support of our business and see a need for this type of business in our area. We know that what reputation that this type of industry has. And that is exactly what we're trying to change, and especially, yes.
One more question, I guess. Do you feel the community would support this business in the CBD?
100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember White?
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to say, I really respect people who get a tattoo because I'm indecisive and I'm a wimp. So, I would never know where to put one, but anyways. So I appreciate the fact that you hire women and you have a unique business. I did know about the change.org petition, and I was looking at that today, and I just wanted to read the write-up about it. I don't know if it's in your packet here, but it says Voltage Tattoos is one of maybe 10 all-female tattoo studios in all the U.S. Our goal is to raise the standards of the tattooing industry and provide a safe space for women in this industry to work. Voltage Tattoos is being threatened to be shut down because the city of Hayden, Idaho doesn't want to have tattoo parlors, AKA adult entertainment, in their downtown district, but will allow bars, pubs, breweries, and also indoor or outdoor gun ranges. We're a private, by appointment only, high-end, all-female tattoo studio that's just trying to provide a clean and safe place for people to go to and also to work at. Please help us show them there is a great need for this by signing our petition. So, yeah, I was just, I just heard about this when, just a day or so before we got our packet. So I hadn't heard personally from any of the people in Hayden. I haven't gotten any letters myself. So finding out all of this online was just surprising to me. So yeah, part of the process is, coming to us and asking us. And I didn't know that you were being excluded because of the adult entertainment. I didn't see adult entertainment.
So, and where that comes about, because I meant to address that. So when I sat down, after I got the letter and I went down and I met with Zach, that is what was said to me, is that's what it was being classified as. And that's where it was.
Meet with?
Zach Trevino. That's where we were being grouped in with. He said, permanent makeup, even though permanent makeup uses the exact same machine, the same needles, that is allowed because it's a personal service. But this is more grouped in with adult entertainment, which is not allowed in the CBD, but is allowed in, this business would be allowed in commercial zoning. That's where all of that, and I even expressed to him at the time, my confusion came from this rental unit, we didn't have at the time, this was in April of 21. I received a call from the city of Hayden concerned that our water bill, which at this time I only had the original location of the 9551, the salon, that our water bill had just went astronomical and had something changed. And so when I answered, I told him, no, nothing's changed at the salon. The only thing that has changed is I rented a room to a tattoo artist. But I said, she doesn't use any water besides normal washing hands using the restroom. And so I said, is there anything that I need to do? And I was told, no, just you need to try contacting the sanitation department to see if there was anything there. I had already talked to the sanitation department, Kootenai County, City of Idaho, and everything was compliant there. So all of this was kind of a surprise. We did find out that a pipe burst and it was an empty building at the time. So that's where the water use came from. But so I had expressed all of that to him at the time. And that's when he fully pulled up on the map, went through everything that was allowed, not allowed, that goes into the gun range or indoor. I just feel like there needs to be either a clear cut of either a separate definition for each individualized service that is there. So then when you have the table of allowed uses, non-allowed uses, it's clear cut and not group everything into one, but then say there's an exception to this and not. Some are allowed, some are not, just depending on who's making the A or the C at the time of the day. You look like you have another question, DePriest.
Just for the record, I'm not anti-tattoo. I have them myself. My first one was in 1975 when I had to step over a drunk in the city of Tacoma to get into a tattoo parlor. My last one was at the Call of the Wild down by Costco. They've come a long ways. No argument there. No argument there. So I just wanted to be on the record to say that. But going into this a little further, do you agree with the staff review that Donna put together, or Melinda, excuse me, put together?
In regards to which part of it?
Were they provided a copy, Donna?
Okay.
So do you agree with what the staff said?
Is this Donna, is this the email that was sent?
Melinda sent you a copy of the staff review that's in their memo that they got for the council packets. That's what he's talking about.
I don't have that on me, but I'm going to go with no.
Well, one of the, some of the things was verification of occupancy. They're saying that you didn't really get one. Says that you fully remodeled 5 of the buildings on your own dime, but you did not get permits for any, for 3 of them, 2 of them you did.
So those are direct replacements.
Pardon me?
Those are direct replacements.
The signs are you talking about?
No, as far as remodeling them, nothing of the structure of the building has been replaced besides the ones that permits were pulled for, the 9551 for the siding and for the roofing. For the other buildings on there, there's no structural change or anything along those lines. It is their
Interior.
yeah, everything is kind of direct replacements. As far as the sign goes, I actually went down to the city. I've been down here more times than I can count for different things and trying to gain further clarification. The sign that was up there from this building, the 9515, that was originally the front porch. Their sign is still up there. It is underneath a temporary sign that is up because who we were going to go through, he went out kind of on leave for signage and that never happened. But I came down here to gain further clarification on that. I've actually had previous building and sign permits that were pulled, but to see, because there's a marquee and sign, to see who has rights to that. I've been down here multiple times for signs, but I haven't taken off any frames or structures or changed the sizing of anything. It's still the original one.
So were you, some of the businesses that you have mentioned that maybe don't comply with the downtown business district, most of those are grandfathered. Case in point, where the survival store is right now, that used to be a tattoo parlor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was allowed to keep it there because he was grandfathered in. Couldn't kick him out, didn't want to kick him out. But did you, when you look at the definitions under the, I think it says personal usage, it says may include tattoo parlors, but the table above it specifically excludes tattoo parlors. Now, I'm not saying tattoo parlors don't necessarily belong there because they've cleaned up their act. I mean, I've seen it personally. However, I would think as a business owner, you would have clarified that or thought about that before you established the business. That's usually what businesses do.
Yes. But when I speak to someone from the city on the phone in April of a year prior, and I tell them I have a tattoo artist in there, and they say, no, there is nothing you need to do, or no, you can't not actually have them. And there's not a separate definition for tattoo and piercings, which again, to clarify, we do not do piercings. We are a full service salon and studio that is, yes, well known for its tattoos, but that is not all that it is. And how can permanent makeup be allowed as a permanent cosmetic tattooing? How can that be allowed as a personal service that uses the same machine, same needle, but a traditional tattoo artist is not okay, and that's not a personal service, even though it is defined in your guys' codes as a personal service.
And maybe not, it should be changed But I guess where I'm struggling with this is you've been told right from the very beginning they weren't allowed, but yet you continue to operate the business. And I understand you wanting to fight the, what's allowed down there and what's not allowed, but it's kind of after the fact. That's where I'm struggling with this.
I don't want to fight what's allowed and not allowed. I think 100% how the rules are contradicting themselves. And like I stated, I went in there and sat down with Zach for over an hour. I sent him, this one is my third presentation that I did. Melinda, oh gosh, am I going to say that right, Melinda? Yeah. She's been extremely helpful in this process of being diligent on getting back to me. Here is the form. Here's where you go to submit the form online. That was what I was waiting for from Zach. And after I didn't hear anything from that initial meeting that I spoke with him, I honestly assumed this was fine. The biggest change that I would love to see is, I've heard from a ton of my neighbors, it is hard to open a business in downtown Hayden. People that live here state it. I lived in this community for Coach Anita Bean for the new Mexican restaurant. He said, I've lived here for 40 years and I never thought it was going to be so hard to open a business in my downtown. It is not. There's a bunch of resources there and there's a bunch of tabs. It is not clear cut of you're opening a business. This is your step 1. This is your step 2. This is your step 3. I have been down here so many times and I submitted my business registration for my salon. I was never told there was a business occupation form. In all the communications I've ever had, any of the times I've been down here in person, there's kind of steps lacking and there's just a few clarifications that are missing. And to kind of round everything back around, if tattoo parlors, massage establishments, if those are all going to be listed under personal services, there's something that I strongly feel should either have a conditional use and based off of per person or they need their own definition of what their services are, because all but, I believe, 2 of the allowed uses in any district, they all have their own definition.
I'll have to respectfully disagree with you. To me, it's very clear. Tattoo parlors are not allowed down here. As far as you're saying, it's difficult to open a business in Hayden. Well, I give you from Prairie Avenue all the way up. It looks to me like there's an awful lot of new businesses. There's an awful lot of thriving businesses. So I respectfully disagree with your statements in regards to it's difficult to start a business in Hayden. This Central Business District was formed many years ago. And, as anything, they're up for change because times change, people change, properties change. There's a lot of change that can happen. When we passed that, and I was here when we passed that, we had a lot of the public that agreed that they didn't want certain businesses in the downtown district. And as now, we did back then, we tried to listen to the people. So again, I'm not putting down tattoo parlors. I'm not. I have them myself. I'm going to get a couple more. But it just, I don't know. There's just something about this, the business already being established before changing the code. So, just my opinion.
Councilmember Dupree.
Thank you. Can you've mentioned having an initial meeting with Zach I think you said April? or something.
No,
When was
they-
the initial meeting with Zach?
So I talked to him on October 9th, October 18th, 2021. And that's when he said if I emailed him over a presentation, he would take it to the director. And I did that on October 20th, 2021. On October 27th, so a week later of 21, I received an email back from him. And then the very next day, on October 28th, 2021, that's when I came down here.
I'm looking at your verification of occupancy application, I guess, dated October 8th of 2021. So that looks like it's 10 days prior to your conversation, I guess, with Zach.
Yeah.
And you put it down here as voltage tattoos. Okay. Were you notified of the denial of use?
No, I got that on October 18th.
So you did receive a denial of use on October 18th? The denial of this application?
Yes. So I received an email back stating that after review of my application, it had been denied because tattoo parlors and piercing establishments are not permitted in the CBD district, and the city of Hayden cannot accommodate these types of businesses. That's when the next day I called and I spoke with Zach. He gave me guidance on what to do.
What was his guidance again?
If I could gather a presentation and make essentially a PowerPoint like I did now about the business, he could see if there was any exceptions to it that could be made, and he would take it to the director and speak with them about it. So that's what I did on October 20th, 2021.
But you continued to operate it doing tattoos?
No, it wasn't open then.
Well, since then you've been doing tattoos, that's what I'm saying?
Yes, so then that was on October 20th, I emailed him over. On the 27th of October 2021, I received an email back from him saying that he spoke with the director and nothing had changed. On October 28th, 2021, that's when I came down here, met with him over everything. He was supposed to be emailing me essentially what was emailed over to me, the next steps in the process of where we are here today.
Did you ask him about an appeal process at all?
So he said there was an appeal process. He didn't know it, and that's where he would be getting back to me on it.
And you didn't follow up at all after that?
Honestly, no.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Question.
Councilmember White.
I was just wondering, what, I saw online you had a grand opening. When was that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, Councilman?
I saw online on Facebook that they had a grand opening.
Okay,
For the
thank you.
tattoo parlor.
Thank you.
For the voltage tattoos?
That was mid-December of 21.
Okay.
And this whole, how all this got surfaced was everyone that works at any of these buildings, they're independent contractors. So they come and go, they're able to work whatever, and at all locations, whatever hours best accommodate them and their clients. But in all of the contracts, it states that there is a 0 drug and alcohol tolerance. And so that's where, unfortunately, there was a little bit of conflict with one of the subcontractors about things that were happening that should not have been happening outside of there. And it was a liability and just something that we do not stand for. And so we had to part pass. And at the end of the day, I'm happy that this all came about, because I don't want any of my businesses to not be operating in compliance. I tried my hardest to further educate all the girls on, well, and anyone for that matter, on owning their own business, on operating it. Before I did this, I was a branch manager between Bank of America and Wells Fargo for almost 10 years. I know the importance of these things, and I don't like knowing that for the last year, I haven't been in compliance for this, and that's what I'm hoping to resolve today or gain further clarification on what the next steps in the process are.
Ms. Wise, I have a couple questions for you. I am curious. I bought a mountain bike at that business when it was a mountain bike shop, and then I went to a local craft store. It seems difficult for me to understand how you could have and by the way, there was a tiny bathroom in that craft store. You required no plumbing changes and no electricity changes to anything in this building to turn it into a salon? Both of which require state permits.
For the 9551?
I'm just going back to you've completely remodeled 5 of these, but I know that one used to be a bike shop. And you required no permits for any of these buildings?
So the only one that I can think of that might have been a bike shop, but the last I knew it to be, I think it was an oil and vinegar, and then I know it was a donut house.
The big square U building.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah, so that's
30, I can't quite,
so there's 9521.
Yeah.
And then 9551.
Okay, those 2 buildings.
Is it the one closest to us?
Yes,
or further?
those 2 buildings used to be grouped together, but I guess my point is there was one small bathroom and you've turned that into is that the area a salon?
No, it's the first one, the 9551.
Okay.
But no, everything that has been done in all of these, there's not been any plumbing that was done. What is there is existing.
What business activities do you have in 9515 and, thank you very much.
So that is,
And 9521.
okay, so 9515, there's teeth whitening, there's tooth gems. That's where we have the majority of our retail items. That's where there's cosmetic tattooing and traditional tattooing.
Okay.
The 9521, that's all like non-invasive medical aesthetics, lashes, things of those sorts.
And that's your spa?
Yeah.
And you do that without water or increased electricity?
There's water in there.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
just for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is completely separate from the voltage tattoo issue.
Good point. Okay, I withdraw all those questions. Okay. I'll go back to another point for you. I have read all of the letters from your employees, as I think everyone on council has. I am extremely impressed with the loyalty and the positive information coming from those folks. Particularly impressed that you are willing at times to help people get it till they can step back up and maybe at sometimes even house them. Several of these letters talked about experiences in other tattoo parlors. I'm certainly willing, based on their letters, I'm certainly willing to agree that that does not happen in your business. But I hope you can see that if we allow your business in the central business district, we pretty much don't have much say on those other types of tattoo establishments that could come in right on your heels. Do you see the problem
100%.
that we
Then
have?
is there, with conditional use, that has to go, and I don't know anything of anything when it comes to this. If things are put at a conditional use, so a C instead of an A, then do they have to go in front of you guys, propose their business, and
The problem will be, we hear all sorts of good things from anybody that's proposing a business, but when we are, when it gets right down to it, once it's approved, based on the letters from the employees that you have and the independent contractors, if we let you in the door or change it for you, we may likely have, based on the letters from your employees, folks who are not as desirable as yours is.
100%, but that doesn't mean that they can't go 500 yards to the, down up north and do the same thing there. By giving us a chance is to potentially stop some of these things that you read in those letters from those girls from continuing to happen. Our biggest thing is anybody is welcome at our shop. It's a safe space for.
And, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, and I'll try not to get emotional about that. It is a safe space for anyone, any age, any race, any color to go in there. But the things that have happened in this area that are a mile up the road from our shop, there needs to be a change, and hopefully setting a standard that things should be different. And I get, if you allow one, you have to allow multiple different, if people did want to come in. But the CBD district itself, the overlay for it is not very big. So it's a tattoo and piercing establishment or a massage parlor can be, I mean, I don't have the map up on here, but literally 100 yards, 50 yards north, and it would be allowed because it's commercial zoning with a CBD overlay.
Going back to your online petition, it says that Hayden won't allow tattoo parlors. Are you prepared to agree with me that that's not true? What the ordinance actually says is that tattoo parlors are allowed in many areas of Hayden, but Central Business District is one where it's not. I'm a little concerned from what Councilmember White read that City of Hayden does not want tattoo parlors or does
It
not
said in their downtown district.
in their downtown district. Okay.
But the City of Hayden, their ordinance also says that we are a personal service, but yet don't have our own definition for it under there and have grouped us completely separate because we're not wanted in the downtown, even though we are listed as a personal service.
Pass that.
I will go back to Councilmember Satterfield's. I can't imagine opening a business after I get a letter saying that I can't have a verification of occupancy, and simply because a city employee did not get back to me, to just hope or assume that all is good. As him, I respectfully disagree with how that should have been approached.
I agree.
We deliberate after this? Or are we kind of in the process right now?
We're in the process of deliberating.
Well, we should let the applicant leave the podium.
Right.
Okay. Can we ask her to come back up?
No, yeah, ask your questions now and then start.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from council? Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Council members, comments and questions?
Yes. I guess a legal question, I hope. I'll wait till Donna gets up there. Can you go to what our choices are, please? I know.
I'm hurrying.
The council may stay the appeal and give a period of time for the applicant to cure the violation in one of two options presented. During the stay, would they be permitted to operate as they are now?
Yes.
So our decision could be that we are going, if possible, that we would stay the decision to give the applicant an opportunity to go through the process required for a text change,
Code text.
the
amendment,
hearing
yes.
process and all that.
Yes.
And I asked the question about, and because public hearings, I think, and you've done a great job of filling the room, and I think you were here earlier. Public hearings, a lot of it is about allowing the general public to come in and say, yeah, we want this, no, we don't, or that type of thing. So I would tend to want to give the public an opportunity to come in and say, yeah, we love this and we think it's fine, or, still even though, and I think if we went through the process, and they would be allowed to continue to operate during the process, let the community, let everybody go through the process and then live with the results of that. So I think that's my comment on a possible resolution for this situation.
Other comments or questions or potential resolutions from the rest of council? Councilmember White?
How long would that process take? That council member Dupree.
It's a solid 90 days, closer to 120. 2 public hearings, notices, written decisions, written recommendations, written decisions, and ordinance publication. It's a solid 120 days.
It's just the normal process of everything, yeah.
Okay, I also want to ask, so because it's a whole process that involves sending letters out and things like that, so that would be an expense to the salon?
To the
Okay.
applicant.
Is it? I'm sorry. Okay. Could we say, as part of this stay, that if the applicant filed for, what would it be called? Appeal or code text change?
It's a code
zone
text
text
amendment.
The zone text amendment within X days? That type of thing? Could we put something like that, say within 2 weeks, the applicant shall apply for a code text amendment, and if they fail to meet that, then it's denied, that type of thing, or? Because just to make sure the process, I think everybody here probably wants the process to move as quickly as possible, but anybody who's been involved in this process at all understands that it's long and often too slow for people who want it, who need it like that. But again, as has been said, and your information here, and I'm also concerned about the point that when you were denied, you kind of, and just because he didn't get back to you, if I were a business owner, I'd be kind of going, what's going on here? I need to figure this out. Am I going to get in trouble down the road? That's kind of a concern of mine. But other than that, I mean, I have no doubt that you people are a classy operation. Okay. And again, I think that I guess, do we motion for this or?
Well, two things. You started to ask a question and then sort of diverted. So
What did I start to ask?
it's her choice which option she wants to choose to cure.
Okay.
So putting a time frame on starting a code text amendment is unnecessary because you can put a time frame on her choosing either of those options to cure the violation. So I would say 120 days with the opportunity to ask for an extension if it's not through the process fast enough or something along those lines to cure the violation. That's the time frame you're looking at.
Okay, so do we motion for something or what is this?
Before you make a motion, I'd like to just interject. The Miranda, when she was up here, was talking about, well, we could just make it a conditional use and then it would have to go back through a public hearing process. So just for matter of interest, conditional use permits are generally required for businesses that would require some additional mitigation to their project site, additional buffering, those kinds of additions. I don't know that I don't believe, and I would lead to Fonda and I would lead to council, but I don't believe that this type of use, should she request a zone text amendment, fits under a conditional use permit. I'm not sure how you would mitigate it if any differently than you would mitigate any other retail or office establishment that is already an allowed use in the zone. So I'm just throwing that out as kind of I don't know what other kinds of mitigations you would put on if you requested it as a conditional use permit, because it's not based on who the user is or how great their establishment is. It's based on the use. So just, I would say that you have to direct her to what kind of request she was making. Is that fair, Fonda?
Yes. So if I'm understanding, she probably wouldn't be applying for a conditional use.
She would do like a zone, at your direction.
Change something on there that would put an A in that box. Okay.
I don't want, because she was talking conditional use and I believe you're talking A for applicable or allowed. I don't want her to be confused as to what direction council is going. I guess that's where I would have to head. If that's the direction you're going.
Well, yeah, my idea here, and I hope I made it clear, is that either way, if the community turns out and says, no way, then no way. But if the community turns out and says, yeah, we think this, we see this, we appreciate what they're doing, and then the council will decide one way or the other, that we would all live with that decision after everybody had an opportunity. And let's say that theoretically were approved, put an A in the box. So whatever she would need to, her code text would need to state in order to make that happen. Does that make sense?
I do want to make one more quick statement. The verification of occupancy came in and was denied based on use. No additional review of the building and or requirements for this particular site were reviewed as part of the verification of occupancy because the use was not allowed. So should she choose to go through the zone map amendment, should it be approved, that's not a guarantee that she's met all of the requirements of the building, like an ADA accessible bathroom. I don't know if that exists in that building or not. Or if she's got the required number of parking spaces, as an example. So I want everybody to kind of be aware of that. As far as the verification of occupancy, it didn't go past the fact that the use was not allowed.
I would think that...
It's important to note that.
I would think that due diligence prior to the actual application would be to gain an understanding of all of the things that would be required should they be approved, so that we don't come back again saying, well, I didn't think that. Okay, so...
just wanted all that to be out there in the...
Appreciate it. So with that, let me take a shot at this.
Well, before you do that.
I'm sorry.
Do other members of council have other comments? Councilmember White.
Well, for one thing, this would be another expense for Voltage Studios. If we did what Councilmember DePriest is recommending, it would... Is it about $440 for an appeal process, something like that?
She's already paid that for this appeal process.
For this one, so
The
that
map
would...
amendments are $1,500.
$1,500.
Plus $500 as a public notice deposit. Anything not spent is returned back to the applicant.
Okay. Personally, I'm not sure that the people would be willing or wanting to put tattoo parlors back into the downtown. So I don't know if that would be, I don't know if that would be a risk for Voltage Studios.
I believe that Councilmember White has a good point, and if we put an A in that box, we not only allow the excellent service that we have right now, but allowable means any of them can come in. Just want everybody to be aware of that if we change our code.
Is there anything called a special use, a special use permit or anything like that?
Well,
So that
are you going to be the person then that says, these guys are excellent, but these guys look like...
I understand exactly what you're saying there.
It's not about the business, it's about the use.
Right. Where something that would give us the opportunity to have a hearing, I guess, again, to determine whether or not each of these, are you trying to say, be quiet?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I just don't know what you'd put in there. Do what? I'm tired. Sorry, I've been here.
But again, I understand 100%. If we open the door, then there's potential that here they come stampeding. But some way, and again, I keep talking about this and have talked about it since forever. This is about the community making decisions about what they want in their community, how they want things to develop and the like. And from everything I see here, yeah, like I keep saying, I'm a little about what's happened here. Okay, but I do believe, that this is what I would consider a classy operation, and it's something that I don't see any reasons why, speaking for myself, I would have a problem with it. But I'm only one person in the city of Hayden. And if you have these public hearings on controversial issues, then I'd like some way if possible to, let's say the public comes and says, yeah. And then the next time somebody comes up and it's something that maybe we don't really find so desirable, that we'd again be able to have a public hearing. People would be able to say yay or nay. So is there any solution to that?
You like the way one house looks, but you don't like the way another house looks.
Well, yeah,
Just
but I'm not, but we aren't really, I guess we are going to make the decision based on testimony we get from it, but we would get usually get a pretty good feeling from the people who testify as to whether it's something that the overall community wants or not, because those who care about it, hey, there's this business coming in over there. Let me tell you, those who don't like it, they'll be out in force and make it known. Those who support it, okay? But people, I just want people to have a say. We talk about community-wide impact, community. Not just a few people, a little group here who doesn't like this or wants this or not that, but give everybody an opportunity to come in and speak their mind and then try and make a decision of what's best for the community wants.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one more question. I would like
Just a
to.
second, I believe Councilmember Satterfield, were you,
Yeah, I'm concerned about setting precedents. We've discussed that somewhat and stuff, but I would say the public has spoken. When we had hearings on this and stuff, when the business district was created, they didn't want certain businesses downtown. And I would suggest, rather than just pinpointing one thing, if council wants to change what the central business district language is, we should look at the whole thing. Now, I bite my tongue when I say that because our staff has enough to do. Our legal has enough to do. Brett has enough to do. And by going through this process, it's very timely. It's going to take an awful lot of effort. And again, I'm very concerned about precedents.
thank you. Councilmember White, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to ask if we did go through a hearing process, would that be a quasi judicial type of a hearing? Vonda, would that? If we did end up doing a judicial process over this, then would that be a quasi judicial hearing?
If we did it, if we were looking at a zone text amendment?
Yes.
No, that's legislative.
Legislative, okay, thank you.
But I want to be clear with what Councilman Satterfield just said, because now he's kind of moved into a different lane, which is not what we have been talking about.
Right.
You have that would be a city-initiated text amendment where we're talking about an option for this applicant is to come back and request a zone text amendment to put an A in the box. So her application is very specific to her needs. And I think what was just mentioned would be a completely separate process that would be city initiated.
Okay. If you could summarize.
Yeah, hopefully real quick. I think what I just heard is that even if we deny this right now, say, nope, sorry, the applicant or party has the right, if she so desired, to take the risk to file for a zone change regardless of what our decision is. She could come back in and say, I want to take a shot at this.
Right, you give her an opportunity with a stay to do it within a period of time where she stayed and doesn't have a pending violation hanging over her head.
But if we did not give her the stay, we said, nope, sorry, she would she have to cease operating the tattoo aspect of it, probably for the time.
It would.
But she would still have the opportunity to file for a zone text change and take her risk with what happened in the hearing process.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Okay, I'd be happy to entertain a motion regarding voltage tattoos.
Somebody has to make a motion.
Yeah.
At this point, one of you guys needs to say something.
I would make the motion to deny the appeal, the voltage tattoos. But if I can, and correct me. Oh, yes. Wouldn't want to make your job too easy, Fonda.
No.
Encourage her to follow the proper protocol for, what is it, the zone change, would it be?
Text amendment.
Text amendment. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Can I just say one thing?
No, ma'am, at this point, I'm sorry, you can't. Council is deliberating here. I'm sorry.
I'd second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. I would like to mention just to lay out to council that if this is denied, it is denied immediately. And I would suggest that we consider a stay to allow the business to continue to operate while a zone text amendment is pursued.
I'm going to withdraw my second comment, please.
Okay. Councilmember Satterfield,
I do not want to change my motion.
okay, good. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DePriest?
Nope.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on. We have our city administrator report.
Can we take a short break? So.
Should we take a
Yes, I need one, please.
5-minute break? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and return.
Thank you. How long you been married? Oh, goodness.
Make your appointment.
Okay, we are reconvening our council session. It is 9:16. And council, or pardon me, City Administrator Boyer, you have some information for us.
Yeah, just a couple quick items. I know. Reminder, this is kind of an odd schedule right now. So next week, next Tuesday, we have another council meeting. So don't forget about that. And with that one, we've asked and have set a workshop to begin at 3:00. We'll have dinner in between, have pizza or something for you.
Next meeting?
The first part of that workshop has actually been requested by the Parks and Rec Commission. We're going to try and keep that fairly quick. I'm hoping between that and they want to talk about honeysuckle and stubmeyer, try to keep that discussion to like Stoddard, sorry. Or it's late.
3:00 workshop.
To keep that to 45 minutes, and then we have some other general discussions we need to make. We're going to try and build up on the H6 and Ramsey. We need to talk about the funding of that, and then there'll be an item hopefully on the regular agenda for a decision. And then if we have time, we'll get back to some of the priorities. But we're going to try and put some workshops on to keep some of this stuff moving. HERA has requested a joint meeting, and we were looking at some dates and wanted to see if you could reserve April 14th. This is to talk about expansion of the boundaries for HERA.
Works?
What time are you thinking?
3:00.
On a Friday?
We could do it, maybe, well, maybe 2. Well, you couldn't do it on the 13th.
I can't do it. Can't we do morning?
What day?
We'll give you it's the 14th.
Oh, okay.
April 14th, it's a Friday, and we'll send a time out to you if that day will work.
So you're not scheduling anything for the NCAA a Monday night?
No, that's on what, like the 5th or something like that, or 3rd, so that's well over.
It would have to be
No.
later morning. I have an early morning appointment.
Okay.
Okay,
Later.
like if we did like 10?
10?
11, 10:30, 11.
Okay. I'll get with them. I figured we'd start with you guys
This is
first.
just a
Yeah, we could
HERA
do
workshop?
lunch.
A joint for a workshop. Also, asked Abby to work on another grant for our generator. Something came across the desk, possibly to get an emergency grant for a generator. And next meeting, we'll have that application. We just wanted to give you a heads up that there's no match to it or anything. I figured we could throw our hat in the ring for that. And Abby's spent a little bit of time on that already. Also, we had the open house. Alan was there, and we had JUB there yesterday. And on Ramsey Road, and so that the report will be put together, and it'll probably come as a report, and maybe in the first meeting in April. So we'll just gather that together. I don't know, I guess 20 to 30 people showed up, and
I haven't got the tally yet, but that's my guess.
so there's that. Last item is moving forward with the survey. You have a draft survey. And so what I'd like you to do is to go through that and write any comments, thoughts, or questions that you may have from our discussions, and then give that to me between, before like the 28th. That's enough time. If you need a little bit more time. Our goal is to have the survey approved at the April 12th meeting. And so I wanted to give it to you, give comments back to us so that we then can formulate questions and then get it back to you. But ultimately, we want to come to the first meeting in April for the council to approve the survey, and then thereafter, we want to then get it out. And we're trying to do it coincide with the city newsletter, which we've started working on. Abby and some of our staff are working on that. So anyways, take a look at it. You can call me if you have questions on this too. It's just in draft, we're still working product format. That's all I have. I would suggest tonight too, we have another item, the executive sessions scheduled here in relation to a property matter, and I would suggest that we do that.
Is that tonight?
Yeah, it's on there, but it's going to take some time, and so I would suggest we do that perhaps at the first meeting in April. It's not an item that has to be done right away.
I move that we approve that.
So I think we're probably all spent for tonight, so.
Works for me too. Good. Are there any roundtable discussions that council would hear tonight? Hearing none? Oh, Councilmember Sass.
I just want to extend my thanks to staff. I know we're shorthanded, can't go into details, but where we're shorthanded doesn't just affect downstairs, affects upstairs, outside the offices and stuff. And just a sincere thank you for you guys stepping up to the plate.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Hearing no other roundtable items, move to adjourn. So done. Thank you for coming and staying with us tonight, you guys.